Chair will call to order the Thursday, December 10th, 2020 meeting of the Norton Select Board, coming to you live from basements and living rooms everywhere. Hope everyone is doing well this week. Let the record show that 4 members of the board are present. Mr. Bramwell is not here tonight, but Town Manager Michael Eunice is. So good evening, everyone.
Morning. Good evening, Mr. Chair.
No, my day's been long, but I don't think it's morning yet, Michael. When the clock strikes a.m.
Fair enough.
All right, we'll get right into the meat of the evening here. Appointments, resignations, and retirements. We have a few appointments I'm happy to see for the Norton Fire Department. Mr. Toole, would you like to, or do we want to open it up to Chief Simmons to?
I might read the appointments and then Chief can talk about them, possibly.
Yeah, no, I just, we're happy to come before you tonight to request the appointments for these 3 members. So they're all local, they all interviewed very well, and we're excited to have them as part of our team with your approval.
Okay.
So I'll read the announcement, Mr. Chair.
Please do, thank you.
Okay. To the Select Board from Town Manager Michael Eunice, November 30th, notice of appointment to full-time firefighter and paramedic. I hereby notify the Select Board that in accordance with provisions, Article 4, Section 2B of the Norton Charter, acting in my capacity as the appointing authority, I've appointed the following individual as a permanent full-time firefighter paramedic in the Norton Fire Department. Matthew Cornell. This appointment was made on November 30th in 2020 and will be effective December 15th unless the Select Board votes to accept, reject the appointment prior to said date. However, I specifically request that the board's acceptance of this appointment to be effective November 14, 2020. Please be advised if there are any questions. Signs. From them. Sorry, I should have just done the names.
All right.
Let me see. I'm going to add both names I'm going to read the next notice and read the last 2 names all at once, okay?
Very good.
Because it's the same memo. Actually, they're not the same memo.
They're not. The last one's different.
Yep. So, from Town Manager Michael Eunice, November 30th, notice to appointment of a permanent full-time firefighter paramedic. I hereby notify the Select Board that in accordance with the provisions of Article 4, Section 2B of the Norton Charter, acting in my capacity as the appointing authority, I have appointed the following individual as permanent full-time firefighter paramedic in the Norton Fire Department. William Russo. The appointment has been made on November 30th, 2020 and will be effective December 15th unless the Select Board votes to accept or reject the appointment prior to said date. However, I specifically request the board's acceptance of the appointment to be effective November 14th, 2020. And the last one, to the Select Board, Michael Eunice, Town Manager, November 30th, notice of appointment provisional full-time firefighter paramedic. I hereby notify the Select Board that in accordance with provisions of Article 4, Section 2B of the Norton Charter, acting in my capacity as an appointing authority, I have appointed the following individual as provisional full-time firefighter paramedic in the Norton Fire Department. Brandon Becker. The appointment was made on November 30th, 2020 and will be effective December 15th, 2020 unless the Select Board votes to accept or reject the appointment prior to the said date. I hereby specifically request that the board's acceptance of the appointment be effective December 14th, 2020.
All right. Chair would entertain those as a motion.
So here, move the acceptance as read.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion?
Quick question. Chief Simmons, talk to me about the provisional status versus the other 2 that are full-time.
Yeah, sure. So the person, Brandon Becker, that's being appointed provisional, is not on the current civil service list that's out there. However, he has signed up for the upcoming civil service list and already tested. So we're waiting the test results for him. So our hope is that we can hire him provisional now, and then after he passes and does well on the upcoming civil service exam, we can transition that into a permanent appointment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief, how many positions does this leave you with open? Is it still 4?
So right now there's 3. We actually have one person that just left to go to a different department. So if you combine, we had 4 open positions prior to that, so that leaves us with 5 open positions in addition to the 4 that we have for the SAFER grant. So in totality, we have 9. This will bring us to 6. I have 2 more people that I'll hopefully be requesting provisional appointments from all of you, hopefully next month. So that'll bring us down to 4. And supposedly the civil service list is supposed to be certified and come out in mid-February. And I'm hoping to be able to hire the 4 for the SAFER grant off of that.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chair, I see Mr. Cornell online, and I'm not sure if the others are online as well. I'm not sure if they want to be recognized or not.
Chief, is that Paul?
They should be online. Pop on and say hi so you can put a name with a face. That would be great, I think.
Yeah, thanks.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Brandon.
There's Brandon. There's Bill. Yep.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, I'm Matt.
There we go.
Gentlemen,
Matt,
thank you for stepping up for the call.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Nice job with the ties, guys. You look great.
I know, I was going to make a comment, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
First time there's been a tie on these meetings for a while, I think.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
I think they're setting a trend. Do it.
I have to find my clip-ons. Is that what you're telling me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, guys, good luck, and thank you so much. We're looking forward to you joining the department.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck, Matt, Brandon, and Bill, and you're going to do a good job with the Norton Fire Department because it's got a lot
Thank
of
you,
good
Peter.
fire departments. And thank you, Matt, Brandon, and Bill. I wish you luck.
Thank you, Peter.
Gentlemen, that was the most important endorsement you can receive. I hope you all know that.
Absolutely.
All right, so matter of formality, we have the vote. So we'll start with Meg.
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Renee?
Yes.
And I too vote yes. Gentlemen, congratulations and thank you for your service to the town, and be safe out there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Gentlemen.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Well, that's always good to start with something on the good side of things. Next up, we have the license renewals.
Would you like me to just read them, Mr. Chairman, and just for?
Yep. I'll do the first page. Whoever wants to do the second page, and there's actually only one on the third. So
I'll do second and last.
So we have Chair would entertain a motion to process the following 2021 renewal licenses. Bristol Beverages, Inc., doing business as Barrowsville Station, 194 South Worcester Street, retail package, all alcohol, common vic. Bog Iron Brewing, LLC, 33 West Main, malt-only pouring permit. 292 LME, Inc., doing DBA The Downtown, 292 West Main, common vic, all alcohol, common vic. Live entertainment, dancing jukebox. Mass special entertainment, or Sunday entertainment for live entertainment, dancing jukebox. Emma's Enterprises, Inc., DBA Emma's Pub and Pizza, 130 Mansfield Ave, common vic, all alcohol, common vic. Jukebox, toy taxi, automatic amusement, vending machine, live entertainment, Sunday entertainment for jukebox, live entertainment, toy taxi, automatic amusement, vending machine. Team Norton, Inc., DBA Fiesta Mexican Restaurant, 175 Mansfield Ave, common vic, all alcohol, common vic. Fillmore Nason Post, number 8049, VFW of USA, 38 Summer Street, club, all alcohol, common vic, live entertainment, jukebox, dancing, one coin-operated pool table, Sunday entertainment for live entertainment, jukebox, dancing, and coin-operated pool table.
Motion.
Okay.
Are we going to vote on those just individually? Do you want me to read the next page? We'll vote them all at once, Mr. Chair.
We'll just go page by page, so if somebody wants to second that motion.
Yep, seconded.
All right. Not hearing any discussion, we'll go to the vote. Meg,
Yes.
Michael,
Aye.
Renee? Renee? You're on mute there.
So 1 minute.
I got two different mics that I have to deal with. I was on the wrong one. Yes.
All right. And I too vote yes. Michael, you want to do the second page and the last one?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the following licenses for the town of Norton. Raphael Brunisi, doing business as Fisherman's 3, 411B, Old Colony Road. Common Vic, all alcohol. Common Vic, light and live entertainment. 36336 Top LLC, doing business as Norton Tavern on the Hill. Common Vic, all alcohol. Common Vic, live entertainment, 1 video game, Golden Tee, 2 pool tables, jukebox. NEHA Corp. doing business as Quick Stop, 250 East Main Street. A retail package store, wine and malts. Sabatino's Trattoria Inc., doing business as Sabatino's Trattoria, 111 West Main Street. Common Vic, all alcohol, and Common Vic. Speedway number 211, 125 West Main Street. Retail package store, wine and malt, and Common Vic. AJ Stone Oven Pizzeria LLC, 288 East Main Street, Common Vic. Hangs Corporation, doing business as Bagels and Cream, 57 West Main Street, Common Vic. New England Rodeo, 185 North Washington Street, Common Vic, and live entertainment. Tom's Table Catering, 33 West Main Street, Norton, Mass. 02766, Common Vic. And Edward Baralt, doing business as Ed's Auto Body and Repair, Class 2. I'm sorry, let me start that again. Ed Baralt's doing business as Ed's Auto Body and Repair, 16R Samoset Street, Class 2 license.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Not seeing any discussion, we'll go to the vote. Meg,
Yes.
Michael,
Aye.
May,
Yes.
I too vote yes. Thank you, Michael, for reading that, and thank you, Jen, for collecting those. How many more do we have outstanding? Ballpark?
We got 7.
7. All right.
They've all been contacted too.
Seven slackers were sent the nasty note today. So
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just call out Jen. She's done an amazing job organizing those and printing them out and keeping them in an orderly fashion. It's really is a Herculean task. So I'd like to just thank her for her efforts on that.
I concur. I got carpal tunnel in my signing in. Finally process all those. So thank you, Jen. It's a lot of work. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Moving on to announcements. Michael, what have we got today?
We've got Solar Therapeutics. Let me just kind of read it right here. Solar Retail Norton LLC will be holding a virtual community outreach meeting on November 14th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. The Zoom meeting on this, Renee, is posted on the website, is on the town website calendar, correct?
And it's posted on news. I asked it to be posted on the calendar too. I haven't looked, but it's out there. It's on the first page under the news section.
Okay. And this is, Renee, could you give a little more color on this? This is something that is required of all the retail shops and so forth.
So this is follow-up. We signed the 2 host community agreements a couple meetings ago. Once they receive those executed documents from us, they're able to schedule the community outreach meeting. It's a requirement that they have to do for the Cannabis Control Commission. So this meeting will be a chance for Norton residents to ask questions or other participants to ask questions. It'll be moderated by Paul DiGiuseppe. And they'll talk about the location, the safety of the location, and, you know, some other items that are required. But it should be a good discussion. I encourage people to attend just to understand, you know, where this will be located, their timeline, what their positions are, and have an opportunity to ask questions.
Great, thank you. Sorry. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, right now. Everything else is going to be Wreaths Across America, certainly we talked about in regular business.
Michael, did you mention on here that they can submit questions early?
I did not, Renee.
Okay, so just to mention that questions can be submitted in advance by emailing questions@solarthera.com. That's SOLARTHERA.com. And again, they can be asked during the meeting after the presentation too.
And there just say one last thing, Mr. Chairman. There is a if you go to zoom.com, and I'm just going to say it, and if people write it down or not, but the web ID is 277-187-5434, and the password is 506751. And I'm going to say that again. If you go to zoom.com, it's web meeting 277-187-5434, password 506751. And that you can find this information on. This information will be posted on the town website.
All right, thank you, Michael. One observation that I'd just like to make, I heard a few folks were confused as to what this was. I think in the earlier announcements, there was no reference to this being for marijuana. So when they saw solar retail, they thought it was a solar farm or something like that. So if any future updates could just include that language so people feel more informed.
So excellent point out, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I don't think there's more subject that gets the residents riled up than the word solar.
That was intentional, Jack, just to get more visibility.
Well, you're going to get the solar crowd, but you're not going to get the marijuana crowd. So
maybe we'll convert.
Could be. Anyway, more information, more gooder. That's my motto. Anyone else have any announcements? I would just like to point out that tonight is the first night of Hanukkah, so I wish anybody who observe a happy and safe Festival of Lights. On to new business. We have an update on Wreaths Across America ceremony, which means we get to speak to one of our favorite people, Estelle Flett.
Actually, it's really
Pat.
Tina.
It's Pat.
Oh, Pat.
I am part of that, but Pat's got the floor on this one.
Well,
I'm
Pat,
not your favorite person, Jack. I'm hurt.
You are equally his favorite.
you are right up there, Pat. I emailed Estelle earlier, so she was top of mind. Take it away, Pat.
Estelle's one of my favorite people too, so I have no problem with that. This is a good thing that's happening in 2020, which we have not heard many positive things, but we are thankful as a committee that we have two new committee members, Joanne D'Onofrio and Mary Ann. How do you say it?
D'Onofrio.
D'Onofrio, thank you. My Italian is through marriage, so I if it was a French name, I have no problem. And Mary Ann D'Andrea, did I do that right? So they are our two committee members, and they have been wonderful and very helpful, and we're thrilled to have them with us. The other positive thing is that every veteran's grave will again receive a wreath. We had, in spite of not being able to have any fundraisers to speak of and public appearances anywhere, we raised well over 500 wreaths through town donations, business donations, and last year we received money after the cutoff date, which has gone by, but the association had a special in January where you bought one wreath and you got a second free. So I held on to that money, I sent it all in then, and I was able to get about 250 extra wreaths that went towards 2021. Little did we know how we would need that this year. So we do have all the wreaths we need for 2020. However, if anybody wants to donate money, it's still a great time because that special is probably going to go on again. So anybody who wants to contribute, send it to Estelle at the Veterans Agent, and we will hold it. And as soon as that sale goes on, I'm going to send all of that in at once. So please don't think that you still cannot use your funds. How's that, Estelle? Did I do good? The ceremony itself is going to be pre-recorded. We're doing this Saturday, in order to avoid having crowds, and the last thing we want is for people to get sick and have a bad feeling for this ceremony and this event. So we're pre-recording Saturday morning. It's a closed event. Everyone will be wearing masks and spaced aside. It's basically the program we had last year, placing the wreaths for each service. We also added one for Purple Heart, since Norton is now Purple Heart Town. And then that's the end of that ceremony. December the 19th is the official wreath date, and that we have we've limited it to 40 people. And those people have come forward already and volunteered to do that. So we're distributing them throughout the 3 cemeteries, and they'll be placing the wreaths that day. So it's basically closed to the public. However, anytime after that, you're welcome to go. And I know, Mr. Jackson, you came there with your children last year. Come see the wreaths after. Enjoy it. What else? I think that's it. Girl Scouts are working on interviewing with some veterans that they know, and they're writing up the interview, and we hope to get that on Norton Media or hopefully in the library at some point to get the teaching aspect of honor, remember, and teach.
So you forgot the big news too.
What's
The
that?
wreaths arrive on Monday.
Yes, they do. The
And,
wreaths arrive on Monday.
and the Norton Police have committed to, if they're available, to escorting the truck in to make a little bit more of the moment, which is done in a lot of the other towns who participate in it. So we expect that to happen between 9 and 10 on Monday. And we'll have also the help of our great highway department, who will help get those wreaths off the truck. So,
Which is an 18-wheeler, and we can't climb into that.
so
Thank you, Estelle. Anything else I forget?
No, I think you covered it. I think just the idea, as Pat said, we were lucky to have the surplus from last year to help meet our goal again this year. Thankful for that, and just thankful that we have the ability to, do it, tape it so people won't miss out on the ceremony, but to also separate the two so we can minimize, any risk of COVID.
That's great. Well, thank you both so much for all your efforts. As Pat said, I went last year. It was a great event. It was really, really powerful and a good learning experience for my kids. So, and it was very, very well attended. The sun came out right at the perfect time because it was raining.
Perfect time.
So if anyone wants to buy a wreath, they reach out to you, Estelle?
They can, and I can direct them to the order form or just send in a donation if you have a special intention that a loved one who's buried in any of the Norton cemeteries. We'll make sure that's noted.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments?
Is it closed to the public, but the honorary mayor can attend, right?
Say that again, Peter?
Can the honorary mayor Norton attend the event and videotape it for the public?
You have to RSVP.
So, what should I do if I want to attend the event? RSVP?
Give me a call, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Estelle.
Yeah,
Good bell.
that can happen.
Thank you. The honorary mayor needs to be there at every event because COVID or not, that doesn't stop me from covering the event.
Very good. Appreciate
Wear
it.
your mask.
Thank you.
wear your mask and stay keep your distance. We're very fierce about that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Pat and Phil. Oh, yep, I hear somebody talking.
I just said thank you for letting us speak, Mr. Chair.
Oh, absolutely. Pat and Stella, thank you so much for coming before us. And I'm really glad that the event is going on in some fashion. I know some people were worried that they were going to cancel it outright, so it's really good that that's going forward.
Let's hope next year we can have everybody.
I hope so.
Fingers crossed.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Units for discussion and or vote to approve the Southeastern Regional Services Group DPW Services Awards 2/1/21 to 1/31/22.
So you have a list of all the, this is for all the services that the highway department would use, grinding, paving material, curbing, catch basins, and this has been approved by the SelectBoard, and if you could approve the list as presented.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a couple questions?
Please feel free, Michael.
So, Mike, this obviously I'm new to this. So are these projects already slated, or are these quotes for projects that come about the year, or these, it looks like these are projects that are already slated, correct?
Each community, they ask the DPW directors and highway superintendents to give them an estimate on what they think they're going to use during the year. And when Sursage puts the bid out to the suppliers, it's based on the quantities that all the towns think they're going to use during the year.
Okay, so they originally, when they quoted this out in the companies that are going to be doing this, they were looking at the whole project statewide of whatever was bidded from all the towns together, correct?
The whole Sursage region, yep.
Okay, and these were already budget-wise, where did these projects already, were these things already approved budget-wise, or?
Yes, this is already in the highway department budget.
That was approved by town meeting, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the Southeastern Regional Services Group DPW Service Award. Oh,
One more question, I'm sorry.
All right.
If there were cuts that need to be made, are we committed to these as they stand, if there were cuts that need to be made in the coming year?
No, these are just estimates on how much paving he thinks he might need.
Okay.
Paving material during the year, stone, gravel, anything like that.
Okay, so the approval is approval, but it's matching, it's the bidding process for what we think we're gonna need, but it's not locking us into this number, correct? If something needs to be cut, correct?
Right, it's just so you know what the per gallon amount or the per day amount for certain things. So if he utilizes any of these supplies, that's what he'd pay.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm new to the process, so I just need to get some understanding. I appreciate the explanation. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm all set.
never apologize for seeking additional information, Michael. That is why we are here. Any other questions from Renee or Mike?
Nope. No.
Alrighty. I'll entertain a motion to approve the Southeastern Regional Services Group DPW Services Award for the 1 year period 2/1/21 to 1/31/22.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Mike?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Renee?
Yes.
I too vote yes. Thank you, Mike, for bringing that up. Alrighty. Next up, discuss in or vote to approve the confirmatory order of taking regarding 190 East Main Street.
This is, there previously was a taking on this property, and then the homeowner requested that a utility pole be relocated. So this would be the new easement on that property to the location where they want the telephone pole to be. And so this would be a confirmatory order of taking to be recorded, depicting that, and the homeowner is going to be compensated for the taking.
Okay, so the homeowner is in favor of this change?
Correct, yep.
And where is this?
This
Where is
is,
it, Mike?
this is on East Main Street as part of the Route 123 road improvement project.
Okay.
So the owner worked with the engineers on a location for the pole. That's what this is.
Got it.
And Mike, this is the one, that they're changing it because the pole is going to be in the middle of the driveway?
Yeah, he had a dirt area on his property that they didn't realize he was using as a driveway. And he wanted that area to stay clean, so they had to relocate the pole a little bit.
Okay. Any changes with the terms?
No, slightly, they get a little bit more money, I forget what it was, but it's very small because the easement's a little bigger.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, should that value be in the order of taking, or does that just get recorded somewhere else?
That is with the treasurer's office, so she can cut the check for him.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other questions, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the confirmatory order of taking regarding 190 East Main Street.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right. Meg?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Renee?
Yes.
And I too vote yes. Thank you. Moving on, vote to declare the Highway Department's 1988 Chevy tree truck as surplus.
So obviously they got a number of years out of that truck. So we now need to declare it surplus so Keith can put that on municipal bid and sell it. And if you have a chance, go down and look at their new tree truck. It's nice. Maybe Keith will let you go up in the bucket.
You first, Mike.
No.
Great. Any questions, guys? Seems reasonable to replace a 32-year-old vehicle at this point. So, all right. Chair would entertain a motion to declare the Highway Department's 1988 Chevy tree truck as surplus.
So moved.
Second. Jinx.
All right. We have a motion, second, and a jinx. We'll go to the vote. Meg?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Renee?
Yes.
I too vote yes. Next we have vote to declare the police department's 2010 black Ford Taurus, I'm not going to read the VIN number, and 2003 Ford Econoline as surplus. Same deal, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
And Mr. Town Manager, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, good.
Mr. Town Manager, just to reiterate, those were approved to replacement on those in the regular town meeting, correct?
Correct.
All set, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
So moved.
There we go. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion, a second, and no jinx that time. Meg?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Renee?
Yes.
I too votes. Alrighty, discussion and or vote. We've got the spring annual town meeting date. My gosh, is it that time already?
So obviously we don't know where we're going to be even with the vaccine coming out, we don't know where everything's going to be at. So, couple options, obviously, Saturday, May 8th, or Monday, May 17th, or Monday, May 24th. I don't know what the board prefers actually planning on in advance, outside on a Saturday or a Monday night inside, whatever the board thinks we're going to be at.
Mike, can you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Michael, if I could just ask, what are those dates again?
Saturday, May 8th, or Monday, May 17th.
I thought it had to happen in April. Is that not correct?
No,
Okay.
April, May, or June.
Okay.
We're dealing with the unknown here. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Are we at the discussion point? We're still dealing with the unknown here. I think we should do it as early as possible in May on a Saturday, as be planning an outside meeting. I would love to see us, I would like to think, okay, by May that's not even phase 3 of the vaccination schedule for the general public isn't even in May. So it's later in, I believe it starts in June, or what's being proposed as the general public vaccination plan. So I think we should still be planning for us outside Saturday meeting.
Thank you, Michael. How does everyone else feel?
I definitely think it needs to be outside.
And if you back it up, then that way, if it's rain date, we have lots of options.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'd like to propose May 8th as our town meeting date. Saturday, May 8th.
Mother's Day is the 9th.
We're giving you for Mother's Day, it's acceptable.
Just don't put it on Mother's Day.
Article 2 needs to be a reminder for all the husbands and fathers in the audience to remember to get their wives and a nice gift for the following day.
So are we going to go with Saturday, May 8th, and then Saturday, May 15th is the rain date? Or is there something I don't have on this particular calendar holidays, but there is something in May.
Memorial Day, which is
The end of the month.
Is it the 24th? Okay.
31st. It's actually the 31st.
Okay.
Yeah, it's late this year. So, yeah, Renee, I think you're right. The 15th would be the rain day.
all right.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask something that might be, and it may not be here, but I know, the election date, did we already decide the election date, correct?
We did, but I can't recall what it is.
I think April 17th.
April 17th. I think that rings a bell here. The reason I bring this up also is when the state sent out the request for early voting or mail-in voting, and Lucia could probably talk into this a little bit closer. I believe she might have said, I believe it said all elections. And I think we need to be clarified on that, because I believe the card said all elections, like you're signing up for all the elections and mail-in ballot. And I just want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up for failure, especially on the town meeting. If people are expecting that mail-in for the town meeting, which is not normally covered, but I believe when people signed up for this, and I believe it was an error on the Secretary of State's department on part, but all elections would include the municipal election.
So there's municipal elections, but then there's town meeting. So
Yeah, no, I'm talking specifically on town meeting. I just want to put it on a rate, so maybe for our next meeting, we just clarify that through Lucia, if there's going to be mail-in ballots as well, because obviously when we think of town meeting, we think of the town election as well. So.
right, they're separate. Remote participation is not allowed. There's no mail-in ballots. You have to be present for a town meeting. But
Yes, I know that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about purely for the election.
Okay, so yes, the election, I know that was an open question with the state what
If
they're.
I could, Mr. Chairman, I know Lucia, we talked today, she's still waiting for clarification on that and praying that they don't require you to have, and I don't see how they could, I hope they don't, early voting for a town election.
Right.
I don't know why they would do that, but those are the two issues she's looking for clarification.
Okay, all right, so we haven't gotten answers on those yet, though. Okay, thank you. Sorry for any confusion I may have brought first town meeting versus that.
No, that's quite all right. Confusion's probably more with me. So, so Jen is checking with the date of the municipal election. By the way, I think it may be the 10th of April, with the 7th or the following weekend being Patriots Day. I think
It is April 10th, I found it.
All right.
It's April 10th.
Yep. Thank you, Jen.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you vote on those dates, and then we'll also declare that the warrant is open and notify all departments.
Super fantastic. Chair would entertain a motion to set the date for the spring annual town meeting for Saturday, May 8th, with a rain date of Saturday, May 15th, both to take place at the football field at Norton High School.
And time TBD.
Time DVD.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, motion in a second. We go to the vote. Meg?
Here.
Michael?
Aye.
Renee?
Yes.
And I too vote yes.
And Mike, if I can ask, I'm guessing with the 8th date, you have do you know the schedule now for when the warrant closes and when it has to be posted?
Yep.
If you have it, if not, we can go over the next meeting.
Nope, I have it. And I just wanted to ask, do you want to set a time or not? Morning or afternoon or?
I might just wait until we're a little closer to see what, I Googled when we were looking, I asked for dates because I was looking at the weather, and it can go anywhere from like mid-40s to 70s. So maybe if we wait just to kind of see what the trend is like.
Yeah, okay. So right now, the warrant would open. We'll notify all the town boards and committees by December 11th. And then on February 1st, close the warrant. That'd be, it has to close at least 90 days before May 8th. And then on February 17th, send a copy of the ATM warrant to the Finance Committee and the moderator, town clerk. Then the voter registration deadline would be 20 days prior to town meeting. And May 27th, post the warrant. May 30th, last day to post the warrant with recommendations.
You mean April?
I'm sorry, April 27th, yep. Post the ATM warrant, and then April 30th, post the ATM warrant with all recommendations.
And that's the final, right? That's when it has to be up 7 days before?
Correct.
All right.
Nay, I'm gonna call you back for those dates.
Sure.
I'll email it to you tomorrow.
Thank
got
you.
it, Paul. So I think it would be beneficial, Mike, for either the next meeting or one very, very soon. We talk about the budget development, because obviously the spring is the big budget item.
Yep.
So just make sure that we understand that and try to set the board's expectations about making sure that we're reviewing the articles before they go to the Finance Committee. So just to clear up that process and be able to give them the direction that they've asked for in previous years. All right, excellent.
Jack, if I can ask too, I think this is the first time that Meg will have been on board for the whole process. So maybe Mike, in the next meeting, you can just kind of go through the timeline and what the expectations are with each of the dates. Like I think, I know somebody, that Jack and I have on the first time that when the warrant closes, you can make no changes to the articles by removing or adding, right? So we have to be sure that what's on there is what we want. Anything that we may miss then is subject to special town meeting, which could or could not be a separate process. So maybe if we can just go over some of those basic details and guidelines at our next meeting, I think that'd be good if that's okay.
I'm actually new to that process too, Renee, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that you were here for the last.
I was,
full
did
session.
some time of it, but not for the full.
Okay, my apologies, Michael.
Yeah.
So for Michael and Meg, and of course myself, Jack and Brad, a nice refresher.
All right. I don't think Brad probably doesn't need a refresher.
No, but he might want one.
Okay. Moving on to one of the more frustrating issues in town lately is our friends from Comcast. So they're making a lot of friends lately with their data caps, and now sending out notice that they are removing WCBB, which is a Boston news channel, from the lineup. So, Mike, what have you been able to discern from these vile people? God, I hope the rep's not on.
By the way, Jack, just point out, someone did just point out, one of the people on this meeting said, could we hurry up because they're afraid we're going to hit the data cap.
Right, that's I told Renee that, I think last month here at my house, we were at almost 900, what is it?
Megabytes?
Yeah, that's it. So anyways, Jack, we have some representatives from the Cable Access Committee on, and
I thought he was going to say Comcast.
Way more than that.
and I know they've been doing some research into it, and maybe have some updates.
Excellent.
We have Jason.
Yep.
Good evening, everybody. We have Jason from the Media Center and Ray Cordnai from the Cable Access Committee. And we have a little presentation to show you, and if anybody has any additional questions that they want to bring up before we do the presentation, aside from what was brought up at the last meeting, we'd be happy to take them now. Wait until the end.
We can do this now, just for a matter of record. Why is the town of Norton keeping Verizon out of here?
Oh,
I knew that was coming.
That's our standard, like at least quarterly question, right?
Yes.
Jack's getting it weekly now. It's Jack's
daily.
like all over it.
Well,
Copy paste.
Mr. Cord has taken the time to educate me on this, so I feel that I must carry the torch and say, we could if we would, but no one wants to come here. So
This is true.
Put that out there.
It's just not cost effective for anybody at this point in time, so.
Well, I think
And we should be clear that it's providers, right? It's not that nobody wants to come, but everybody asked about FiOS. It's not financially sound for that investment for those folks.
Correct.
Will your presentation address other coaxial-based companies doing an RFP or anything like that? So maybe like Cox, RCN, or anything like that? Do you guys create an RFP process and people can bid on trying to come to Norton, or am I putting the cart in front of the horse?
Yeah, let's just start with the presentation and
Okay.
Any questions after that? So basically, let me just share the screen here.
Jason, you might have two mics open on your meetings because you're getting an echo. I'm getting feedback.
You do have excellent lighting, though. I'm going to call you afterwards on how you got that. Oh, I don't have my lighting on.
It could be $1 million media set to Renee.
Could be.
Service.
All right, so here's our overview of some of the research that we've done to address some of the issues that we've been hearing from you folks and from people in Norton. The first one is the Comcast license itself. Last week, I heard one of you guys mention that you thought that the license was for a 20-year period, and I just wanted to clarify real quickly that it's a 10-year license, and we just signed our 10-year agreement pretty recently in December 2018, so that's going to be expiring in 2028. The provisions of the license apply only to cable television and not the internet. So we do not receive any revenue sharing provisions for the internet side of the business, only for cable television. But that does not prevent any emerging entrants from coming in. Our license is not exclusive. It's a level playing field license. So, and I'm just going to say it again. I know it's already been said 2 or 3 times already, but the town of Norton has always encouraged competition between ISPs and welcomes all entrants into this market. We've begged, we've pleaded, we've called up Verizon, and they, in the beginning, they said, well, maybe give us 2 or 3 years. But they ended up redlining us just like they redlined a lot of other communities due to the fact that there were some population density issues. And just to prove what I'm saying, this is section 2.5 from our current license, non-exclusivity. This renewal license shall not affect the right of the issuing authority to grant to any other person a license right to occupy or use public ways or streets or portions thereof for the construction, upgrade, installation, operation, or maintenance of a cable television station within the town of Norton, or the right of the issuing authority to permit the use of the public ways and places of the town to any purposes whatsoever. The licensee hereby acknowledges the issuing authority's right to make such grants and permit such uses. So if anyone wants to come in, whether that be, like you said, Cox or any of the other providers, they can come in at any time. They don't need to even bring an RFP. They can come in with their own license, and we can grant that if that's something that the town wants. We have a total of 6,000 current subscribers. Towns with 2 internet service providers will usually split the revenue 50-50. So what ends up happening is if you have an ISP come into town that already has an ISP, half the people jump ship and go to the new ISP. You get some competition going between the two, and then we get the same amount of revenue regardless. It's just split 50-50 between the 2 of them. The 2 main factors governing competition in this space are the last mile costs and the population density. And it's just too expensive to run last mile fiber to an area with a population density like Norton. If you look at the cost comparison between cable internet with an average cost of about $300 installation per subscriber, BIOS, you're looking at $1,000 plus, and that's passed along to the subscriber. So between those last mile costs and the population density, you can see we have a population density of 649 people per square mile. If we were to compare us to Attleboro, they have a population density of 1,600 per square mile. If you were doing business and you wanted to capitalize and get a good ROI, you would not do business in a town with such a low population density. It would take a long time to make your money back, especially with 3,000 customers to fight over. Before I go into the cap portion of this, do you guys have any questions about that?
So has there been, so when you guys were talking to Comcast, I know we're open, do we ever go actively after a Cox or an RS, do we actively, as the board, as the committee actually try to reach out to them, try to pull them in, and they just say no? It's by doing 50-50, by splitting the business, the 3,000 is just not enough meat on the bone, or is it?
That's exactly what it is. You nailed it. That's every time we call, we talk to their public relations people, we talk to their marketing people, we talk to their executives, and they all basically give us the same line. What ended up happening was telecoms were deregulated about a decade ago, and at that time, they promised that all the money that they would make through the deregulation process extra, they would reinvest into the state and build out systems, and they didn't do it, and no one held them accountable for that promise. And so as a result, they just went after, they cherry-picked the cities that had the highest density and redlined everybody else. And I remember going to the State House and, with other cable executives and trying to get them to give us some promises that they were going to do some build outs, and nothing came of it.
Okay. And the last question I have is, have we looked at being our own internet service provider? There are towns all across the Commonwealth that are their own internet service providers. I understand the capital expense on that.
I'll get to that at the very end.
Okay, great, thank you.
So going into the cap, I talked to Catherine Maloney. She's our government liaison, and she told me that if anyone brings up a cap, to let them know that it is absolutely not a cap, that what it actually amounts to is a $30 charge if a customer goes over 1,200 gigabytes per month. And you guys already kind of mentioned this, but the average user uses between 300 and 400 gigabytes per month. So this actually represents 4 times what the typical family would use. So with that much data, you could stream 150 hours of 4K video every month, or take part in 3,500 hours of video conferencing. So that represents about 5% of the total subscribers that would utilize data at that level. And they're responsible for 20% of the actual costs that the ISP incurs for data. So asking them to add another $30 a month to their plan for using 4 times more data, it doesn't really sound like much of a hardship. And it sounds like something that is pretty reasonable given the fact that they're getting that much more value out of the equation. So that is that. Now, taking a look at our Comcast internet rates in Norton, these are the current rate packages and tiers. You have a performance starter, which is at 25 megabits per second for $49.95. And then you get up to performance for $75. That's at 50. Then you get into performance plus, which is 100. And then you get into Extreme Pro, which is 300. Gigabit is 1,000 megabits per second, and Gigabit Pro is 2,000 megabits per second. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but we do have viable gig options even with our singular provider in town. It's not as though if you want that speed, you can't get it. And at $104 for gig, that's pretty cost competitive with what Verizon would be charging.
Yeah, Jason, I've kind of looked at this a couple of times and I've gone to them. So let me ask the question. I've got quoted, and that's not the price I was quoted, the $104.95, and it was more on the 125 range for the gigabit speed, because I've looked at trying to do this. If I was 104, that would make sense. So what can residents, what can I do myself if I'm getting quoted something different?
I would just go to them and point that out. That's what's on their current internet site plan. And of course, there's always a lot of little fees that are added into.
Yeah, and I surrender to that, right? I mean, if you're using their modem, I understand all that.
Rent fee, the amortization of the installation over the course of the year, that gets rolled in. And so a lot of times people will look at that and say, well, that's a lot more than what they're quoting. But it's kind of like when you go to U-Haul and rent one of those trucks and it's $19.95, and then you find out it's $150. It's just a lot of built-in stuff, but that is the published price.
So, if I could, Mr. Chairman,
Please go ahead.
those are the rates as of now, but as of January, the starter will be $54.95. The performance will be $80.95. Performance Pro $95.95. Extreme Pro will be $195, so that didn't change much. Well, the Blast will be $195, Extreme Pro will be $105.95, and the Gigabit Byte will be $110.95. And they don't have on their current list that I have in front of me the Gigabyte Pro.
So looking at our future broadband options for Norton, there's going to be some 5G companies coming in. One of them is called Starry. Elon Musk is looking at putting up Starlink satellites into space to send internet everywhere, but that's a few years down the road. And the other option is the one that Michael mentioned, which is for us to look at building our own. So that would be to build a point to multi-point wireless broadband system here in Norton. And we looked at deciding to conduct a study to determine the feasibility of building a small-scale broadband wireless system. And to that end, we're looking to test current backhaul and bridge access point equipment technology to discover what kind of signal coverage and data throughput we could provide given our area's unique topography and population density. So we want to put our best foot forward, and I know it's frustrating for everyone to only have one choice, but I think given the maturity of this technology, it's something that is worth looking into. Maybe we could start something on a small scale and kind of organically build from there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think this is something that we should be looking into. I mean, I know, obviously, many people don't realize we're 29 square miles of a town. I mean, if you look at some of the big cities like Brockton, they're not that big area-wise. So we have obviously geographic challenges.
So I have a couple of questions, if nobody else minds me jumping in here. I understand, first of all, Jason, thank you very much for pulling that together. There's a lot of good historical information there. I seriously question that average consumption. Just looking online, as of 2019, the average person was 270 megabytes. So if we were 270 a year ago, and now a bunch more people are working from home, kids are doing remote learning, to only go up 38 gigabytes a month seems to not track with my sense. From an informal poll of both myself, my family, my friends, nearly every single person that I have talked to is well over 900 gigabits per month. And I don't believe anybody is torrenting or streaming excessive amounts every day. It's with 4K data, with a lot of the gaming systems that are now out, people are burning through way more data than they ever have before. And I saw the item of a $30 extra charge if you go over, but I believe that only affords you a certain amount of additional.
The way that Catherine explained it to me was that was the ongoing charge that you would have to convert your plan to. So you would convert to an unlimited plan for an additional $30 on a monthly basis, and that would cover you for everything.
Okay, so but I don't believe that is how it's been widely communicated, where it says if you go over the 1.2 terabytes, you will get a charge and you will get an additional allocation. And if you go over that again, it's another charge and an additional allocation. And they've said that you get charged twice. What is unclear to me is what happens to your network speed at that point if it gets throttled down.
No, they're not gonna throttle it. It's not a cap. They're going to give a grace period of a couple months, and they'll give warnings prior to even making any kind of a fee adjustment. And then at that point, they would say to you, "Is this something that you plan on doing on a continuous basis?" And the answer for that was yes. It would make the most sense for you economically and practically to convert your plan for an additional $30.
How, Jason, let me ask this. How's the average person tracking this? I mean, I don't believe is the usage actually on the bill now that I think about it, is the exact usage on that bill?
I'm not aware of whether.
I don't believe it is. I think it's bundled. I think it's bundled, and I would imagine you get hit with the $30 if it's over. So that'd be it'd be interesting to see what the real numbers are, Jack.
Here I'm actually pulling up my Comcast bill right now. I know you can go into your customer portal to see
What usage is.
What your usage is. It's not as straightforward as I would think you have to go digging for it. It's almost like they don't want you to find it.
If you, just on your clicker, if you just click on, if you click on Xfinity and you just scroll over to the whale or whatever it is and click on that, your account will come up and it says data usage. You can click on data usage and see. I just did it. 764 one month, 831 the next month.
And that's under what, Mike?
If you click on the Xfinity
Yeah.
button and then go all the way over to the right, there's like a
Settings wheel.
click on that, and then you'll see my account comes up. And if you click on my account, you have the data usage on the bottom.
I think I would challenge residents to do that and be watching that pretty regularly. That's good feedback, Mike, because then that will get us kind of an understanding and
Yes.
But everybody should understand their typical usage to look at the package that would be appropriate for them, right? I mean, you have to weigh your costs.
I'm looking at my most recent bill. It does not have the data consumption. And as an internet-only customer, I would expect that there. So you can go online and look, and you can get, I believe, it's at least several months worth of data history on there. So I realize that a small town like Norton has a infinitesimally small chance of influencing any sort of decision making by Comcast, but this just strikes me as crass profiteering in the midst of a pandemic and taking advantage of the folks who are working from home and trying to claw back the streaming folks. They've seen a massive flight of customers to internet-only plans and getting their cable content through other means. And at this point, they're going to price the internet far out of reach. Because ironically, when you are streaming through them, all those charges, none of that data hits your cap. So you can watch as much DVR as you want through your Xfinity set-top box, and that will not go against your cap. So how long for the days when net neutrality did not get gutted by the FTC.
in that, Mr. Chairman, in that method that the town manager mentioned, is also an area where you can put in your cell phone number, and it will send you a notification of the exact number. And it's actually dataplan.xfinity.com, and you can enter your phone number, you log into your account and enter your phone number, and it will send you your data usage monthly.
All right.
It'd be interesting to see, Jason, how far along in your own ISP research are you guys? I mean, are you guys, it sounds like you was just starting to look at that as an option.
Yeah, we really want to look at this closely, and a lot of time when you're looking at what the vendors tell you that their equipment can do, when you purchase it and you test it, you find out there's a lot of hype. And these frequencies, the unlicensed frequencies that we would be transmitting on, they have different levels of penetration through different terrains. So depending upon line of sight, depending upon tree lines, things of that nature, that's going to govern how much throughput and how much speed we would be able to get out of such a system, and how economically feasible it would be to build that out at scale.
Okay.
5G has a broadcast radius of about 500 meters, and it's highly susceptible to any impedance along the way. So it doesn't deal well with walls, trees, cars.
Correct.
Works very fast if they're
The lower the frequency, the more it goes through, and the higher the frequency, the less it goes through.
Yeah. I know, does Taunton have their own fiber coax?
Don't believe they do. I don't think either Taunton or Mansfield do. I think I looked at their services and I didn't.
Taunton Municipal, like, provides internet,
and phone service.
That's what I thought. Thank you. Thank you.
Mansfield Electric does not, North Attleboro Electric does not, Norwood does, Concord does, but it's, all the electric companies looked at it, some of them decided, no, we don't want to get into that business. And as you may remember, North Attleboro tried it probably 20 years ago and almost went bankrupt.
All right. Is there any opportunity to join in on Taunton's municipal internet?
It would have to be a wireless connection because we have no hard connection to them.
Gotcha. So it's still the same problem.
Right.
Okay.
And I think any solution we look at has to be a wireless solution because there's no way that anybody can afford to run fiber to cover the geography that we've got. And with the numbers that Jason showed you at the beginning there, with Attleboro with 1,600 subscribers per mile versus ours of 300 or 400, whatever that figure was, you can see the same problem, which would be Cox coming in. They're a cable, they wouldn't run fiber for that. So it's got to be a wireless solution. And if we run into the same problem, though, you need more mini cells to cover the same territory because the people are spread out.
So what I'm hearing is there's a very simple solution and you guys will be back in a week to let us know what it is. No, we understand that it's a challenging environment, and the town's composition further complicates that matter. So appreciate you guys coming in and educating us, and hopefully educating anyone else who's watching and gives us something to point to. We'll say either later tonight or tomorrow when the next person complains about Comcast being the only person in town. So.
And Jack, if I can just ask Ray and Jason, because I believe it's my understanding, this isn't a Norton thing. This is a Comcast delivery in like the New England region, right?
That's correct.
So, and I don't know if I thought I mentioned this to somebody, but you know, I grew up in Ohio, and all of their internet, at least in the area where I grew up, for years has been by usage. Like, and I thought it was weird. I used to say to my brother, "How don't you have unlimited like data?" But it's not. This isn't a foreign concept, right? I think that they're just, and to your point, Jack, bad timing definitely. But I think difference is because of the bad timing, right? They're being taxed more. So there's more services being reported, like more outages being reported, more bandwidth being used, and I'm sure it's cutting into their costs too. But I mean, I just want to clarify that this isn't just Norton. This is a much bigger change for Comcast.
The Northeast, or New England specifically, was the last area of the country that had that pocket of unlimited, if you want to call it that, with no cap. The rest of the country has always had a cap.
Thanks, Ray.
All right. Thank you guys.
Would these individuals be the one that we would talk about WCVB at all, or?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add one other thing. If we get into this business of being an ISP or a cable TV provider or whatever, the five-member board cannot handle this. This is going to require the formation of a whole separate corporation and, service trucks and everything like that. So we've got to think of the infrastructure that has to go with the infrastructure.
Absolutely. Nope, that's understandable. So Michael was bringing up the WCVB decision. I don't know if, Jason, you're able to speak to that with any of your contacts?
Actually, Ray knows more about that. He was looking into that specific issue.
One of our local residents has had numerous conversations with the executive response team at Comcast. I guess that's a fancy title for customer appeasement. But anyway, he was recently told within the last several days that negotiations have been restarted and are ongoing, and that it looks like it may be favorable that this whole thing would just go away. So, you know, I don't want to make false promises, but it looks like at least they're talking to each other again about keeping WCVB in Channel 5 in the lineup. So we can only hope that they come to an agreement.
Ray, do you think we should send a letter to WCVB, Comcast, and or the FCC talking about the importance of being connected to the that obviously Bristol County being pushed to the Providence market, and kind of disconnecting it from the Boston market for news is a concern.
We may get more action if we go through our legislators and have them listen through the Department of what's it called now, Cable and Utilities or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Town Manager, is there a chance that we might be able to draft a letter and include all of our legislators? Actually, the Congress, it would probably be a federal letter, correct? A letter to our congressman.
That could help. Yeah. I mean, Comcast is licensed at the state level, so it used to be the Department of Public Utilities, but there's a separate department now, and I can't remember what it is. It's something like cable and broadcasting or something like that.
So maybe a letter to our congressman and CC Comcast, WCVB, just one letter, obviously, but send it to them and just talk to them that Norton is obviously, we're in the 50-yard line between the Providence market and Boston. And it would be, a lot of residents use that as their news source to stay connected with the state. Do you see that as an option, Mike? Sending a letter?
That's right. I got some historical tidbits for y'all guys. Back in the 80s, Norton was under Rome's Cablevision, and I get an article from the Talking Gazette from 1985 in which 6 representatives from the Rome's Cablevision appeared before the Board of Selectmen to discuss the complaints of local citizens regarding increased rates and problems with their service. And Chairman John Schneider cited his own problems with cable to the edge and connected TV 4 times this month. He said the board wanted to know what could be done with this situation. And also, I got a Sun Chronicle cable channel lineup from November 24th, 1991, and Norton was part of TCI Cablevision, and WCVB's channel designation on cable TV station in time was 23 and WBC's 22 and WGBH's 21. And
All right. Thank you.
So Mike, Mr. Town Manager, if you'd send that to obviously Congressman Kennedy and Congressman Auchincloss. Obviously, we're in the middle of a transition, but this decision is going to happen on the 22nd before they switch offices. That would be helpful.
Any other questions or concerns? Jack had to step away for a moment.
Thank you, by the way, Jason, Ray, and all that gave us on the committee. That was very helpful and that cleared a lot of information questions I had up.
Thank you guys very much. And Jason, can we have that presentation to post? Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Great. Yes, sir.
While you're waiting for Jack to come back, I think Daniel is on, Daniel Serber from the Plain Street Solar Project. You had asked for an update. I didn't realize Daniel was ready to give an update, but if you want, we could have him give an update on where he is.
Yeah, that would be great. If there's nothing else on this topic, just to confirm. Okay, great. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Hi, Daniel.
You're muted.
All right. Hey, how's it going, guys? Yeah, I've been here from the beginning. I know this project has been annoying, but I hope we're not on Comcast vile people status with quite yet in Norton. So this project got approved quite some time ago, and unfortunately, due to some unfortunate events that really aren't your problem with our former construction contractor, it got pushed back quite a bit. And then there was a really long, delayed, drawn-out process with Norton's Conservation Commission, which finally got resolved. And unfortunately, that placed us where we are developing during the school year, which we expressly did not want to do. I understand that this is an inconvenience. I visited the site on likely the loudest day of construction when the wood chipper was running, and at the same time there was panels being delivered, which required us to have a police traffic escort. It's a state day where school is going on, and you know, there's no other way to say it except the noise level for those few days when the wood chipper running was ridiculous, and I was unaware that the school was also required to leave their windows open, and I mean, we feel terrible. That's really all I can say. As for the project itself, to give an update, we have finished all the clearing and we are almost done with civil work. The next step of the project is getting steel delivery, and then we'll be assembling the racking on site. The racking will involve a post pounder, and so instead of a loud wood chipper for a few weeks that we're going to try to schedule during the kids' off weeks, it'll be more of a ding, ding, ding as the posts get pounded into the ground. After that, it'll be racking and panel installation, electrical. That will also involve some noisy things, generally an impact wrench that's just bolting the panels directly to the racking. Our current construction schedule is showing us out of there the last day, February 11th. It's not to say that's the last day of major equipment, that's the last day period. I can pull up the construction schedule. I think most of the noisy stuff should be done in January, and then it's a lot of commissioning, testing. You know, the hydro seed stuff that won't really have an effect on the abutters. We got a call today. It's the first call I've gotten directly, considering I'm the only person I believe you guys have on file as the contact. So today I got my first from the town saying that we needed to do street cleaning. We had scheduled street cleaning today as part of our contract, so that's completed. The street's clean, as far as I understand. I did not personally verify, but I was told it's clean. You know, I know there's probably specific concerns, and I'd like to hear those. And again, I hope you guys have my contact information. I did give that contact information to the abutters. Granted, that was not recently, and the town should have me on file. I know your planner, Paul De Giuseppe, calls me regularly, and you know, I have a relationship with Mike here, so we are wanting to be responsive to specific issues. Obviously, there's some things that are unavoidable, unfortunately, in the construction process, and we do recognize the unfortunate timing that this all played out on. We are looking forward to some things we can do with you know, looking at options on planning a pizza party or some other event for the kids to just say sorry when this is all over. We again do want to be good neighbors, and we understand that this has been an inconvenience both for our immediate neighbors and parents, and then most acutely the elementary school kids and the teachers.
Daniel, can you talk about the schedule? Like, you mentioned February, right? That some of it will be done. Like, what is the completion schedule for the project?
Sure. Let me.
Welcome.
Give me 1 second. I had it up, but taking it down at some point during the Comcast presentation. Here we go. Yes, so let me take you through the high points. So right now we are completing our the civil work. Fencing is the last thing on the civil side. That's slated to be done the last day of the year, Thursday the 31st. Grading and access roads are going to be completed at the end of next week. The next major items are, got this back. Okay, yeah, so the post drive is scheduled to start Monday the 21st and end on Tuesday the 29th. That's going to be the major, post driving activities. When I was describing, there's going to be more of a ding, ding, ding. There's going to be guys out there assembling the racking on top of those posts. That's scheduled to be Wednesday the 23rd through Thursday the 14th. And then module installation is slated to go from Friday, the 15th of January through Monday the 1st. And then all the rest of the activities are testing, commissioning, wire management, cleanup, that kind of thing. So those are the major milestones. I can forward this to Mike and he can distribute to the selectmen or whoever.
Sure, that would be good. And you said there's a significant amount of sound with the modular installation?
So it's an impact wrench. So it's an electric wrench that and puts bolts on the modules. So like a loud drill, and those are again going to be quite far compared. Unfortunately, the wood chipper, which was the main source of noise, was right on the street. And instead, this is going to be back in the panels where the panels are themselves. So there should be at least more space in between, the main street, the abutters in the school, and the actual noise producer itself.
Okay, and so everything's going to be done like landscaping. I remember talking about like a berm and stuff. That's all going to be done then in February?
Yeah. Yes, we're putting up quite a high berm, and we're planting trees on top of that to block any view from a couple of the houses that are actually on Plain Street and in the school itself. Let me pull that portion of the schedule up. So here's that. So we don't have the berm itself as a line item. So, I assume that's in the civil scope, but we have the seeding and tree planting scheduled for 10 days between Tuesday the 26th and Monday the 8th of February. And the berm has to be completed to do the plantings.
Okay, February 8th was the end date on that?
Yep.
Okay, I think, Daniel, have you met Nick at all? He's been following up on some items on our behalf. He's the new building commissioner.
So he's not contacting me directly. Our site manager there, his name is Sean. There's actually two Seans that are running the job, Sean Clancy and Sean, his name's skipping my mind, but the two Seans that work for Amps Electric, he might be following up with them directly.
Okay, should he be following up with you?
He's having issues that aren't being solved immediately with the Seans. He should, because I'm the one that's going to, if they're ignoring anything the town says, I'm going to be the one that's on top of them. I've only gotten one message personally, and that was today from, I believe his name's Keith Silver.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so the one thing that we asked specifically was, when work's going to happen that's going to impact the traffic in that area, that there's some coordination or at least communication and awareness to the town so that they can get that information to the schools, and if they need to make additional communications, they can do that. The first incident, I think, that was brought to our attention was work that was happening before 7 a.m. And I think that it was only it stopped after we raised the issue. And then the second issue was the road essentially being, closed on both sides during the school drop-off. And, the big concern with that is there literally is a 10-minute window for drop-off for parents and students. They have rerouted traffic the other side. So everything's coming from South Washington down Plain. So everything's going past that area, like the entrance to the area. And so the request is just to make sure that it doesn't happen during specifically the school drop-off when kids are then late and then we cause more disruption to an already confusing learning environment, right, with COVID because they're running cohorts right now. And then certainly I think just some awareness for the afternoon. So what I would ask is just, and I know Mike stepped away, but just to make sure that, either the Sean's or your involvement with Nick or Mike or Paul, whoever it might be, just make sure that there's communication so that we know what potential activities might happen and might have some disturbance within the area, both to the school and to the neighbors and the abutters.
Okay. Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it certainly, we heard this quite some time and nothing happened. And then, finally things started to work, which is great. The other thing too is, was there any change as a result of what you guys did to where the panels were going to go and the space? I was back there and it seemed much larger than what I remembered from the diagrams that were presented to us.
So, I mean, what you're probably seeing is the fact that there is like shadow buffers, so the limit of clearing is larger than the actual panel footprint. But nothing has changed on any of the actual panel layout. The only things that changed through the Conservation Commission while working with Jennifer and the town peer review was that just some of the drainage pools were just shifted because of some high water in the areas where they were originally planned. So the actual layout hasn't changed one bit.
Okay. Could you also send that to Mike as well, just so he can send it to the board? Because we have at least 2 new members who hadn't heard any of this. So I think it'd be nice just for them to see the packet, if you wouldn't mind.
You want the building permit set?
I don't know if that was the bill.
The actual blueprint type set?
I would say yes, unless there's something else that's more intuitive for us.
Yeah, no, this has intuitive pages, and then it has a bunch of pages that are less intuitive. So I'll just send the whole packet over.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And I'm always here if you guys are having a problem. We have a real estate agent that originally brought this to us, this parcel. He's on all the Facebook pages. He said people are pretty upset and they're closed pages. I don't know how to get a hold of people specifically. So, we want to be responsive and respectful. So I just recommend, using my email address, I'll respond. So.
Sure. We appreciate that. And Mike, I know you stepped away. I think Nick obviously has joined. I don't know if he has Daniel's information, but maybe we give that to him. I know he's been following up on some issues for us. Can I ask Daniel too? I don't remember from the first presentation. What's the plan for that house that's there? Is that coming down?
Sorry, my internet cut out. I didn't get the last maybe 30 seconds.
What's the plan for the house that's on the property?
So the original plan for the house was to refab it, and our construction manager, who normally lives up in the Adirondacks, just want to live in it. But then the condition ended up being quite a bit lower. Thought it was. Ceilings are low, etc. I won't go into it. But now we're mulling over to if it would be better to just refab the outside and make it look nice, or to just complete it and then worry about it later, or to demolish it. Either way, we're going to put it in condition that it isn't going to get worse. Is our plan. That helps.
Okay. Yeah, I thought somebody was going to live there. I didn't realize it was a construction manager. I actually thought it was somebody else. But okay, so it's not going to continue to be an eyesore.
Yeah, we did take down the garage, and we removed that with the town, did all the asbestos and rodent, stuff that was needed for demolition. I mean, we're gonna make the house look better. I guess in my head it doesn't look that dilapidated. I didn't know it was like a known eyesore, but if it is, we'll definitely put more immediate thought into the next step.
Okay, that'd be great. And I think it's more visible now because, the trees have been removed and the entranceway has obviously been enlarged.
Yep. Okay.
Great. I don't have any other questions. I don't know if anyone else from the board does.
I'm good, Renee. Thank you.
Daniel, thank you so much. Appreciate the update and you jumping on quickly.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Call me if you need anything. See you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Daniel wins shirt of the night. Narrowly beat out the 3 firefighter appointees with their snazzy ties with his Christmas shirt. Very spiffy. Thank you, Renee, for stepping in while I had to step away. Are we on to scheduling the next select board meeting? Is that our next item?
I think that's next, yes.
Super fantastic. How about next Thursday? 10/17. 12/17.
What do we need to meet on? For the
A few more licenses, I believe.
The final licenses and the charter commission is gonna come to the meeting.
okay, and the 17th gives enough time. We're not going to have to meet again then on licenses.
No. I told everyone if we don't have the stuff by Monday, then, they won't be in operation on after December 31st, so hopefully they, come through.
Does that work for everybody? And do we at least have a quorum? It'd be good to
I'll be
have
there.
as many folks as possible for the charter commission meeting.
Is that for the actual charter commission, or is that for the discussion of the discussion of our requirement for the charter commission?
That would be both, is my understanding. So the charter commission will come in, and I believe Mr. Units has town council coming in as well to talk about their response to the charter committee question that we had.
Not to be confused by. Okay.
Charter commission.
Commission elected, committee appointed.
So Jack, I got to tell you, I mean, I'm really against the 17th. Like, I don't know why we can't meet on Christmas Eve.
You go first.
Renee, you can meet on Christmas Eve. It's a quorum of 1.
I'm good.
All right.
Ms. Meg? She's still with us.
She might have to unmute herself.
No, I'm not muted, am I?
No, we can hear you now.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay. So let's lock in next Thursday at 7 o'clock, Mike. Does that work?
Yep.
Wonderful.
Are we just talking those 3 items? So charter committee, charter commission, and then the licenses. Is that the plan?
I think there's
Understanding the plan can change.
the ESCO contract.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Isn't there a school committee meeting that night and they needed something from us before then?
They're meeting on the 17th. I think they were looking for, trying to think, clarification on status of the building projects.
Yep.
And athletic complex. And then there's a capital plan that is due on the 21st. If anyone wants to challenge my dates, please feel free.
No, that sounds right, Chuck. Let me just double check.
I think the building committee meets Tuesday, next Tuesday.
They meet the 15th. The building committee meets the 15th.
So it's with us meeting on I guess my question is just with us meeting on the 17th, does that give them the time to get whatever they need to get from us?
I would think they'd have enough. I mean, they have to make a decision on the 17th, what they're doing for a failed project, I think is what's going to be on their agenda.
I'm sorry, Mike, what they're doing for a what project? It just cut out.
Oh, for the failed project, they have
Field.
to make a decision on what they're going to be doing.
Okay.
Reading through the bullets that came through this morning, markup of borrowing, what is on the books, how much can we borrow, and what are the current rates? So when can we get that information to them?
I'll get that to them probably Monday. But we're nowhere near our borrowing capacity. I mean, our borrowing capacity is crazy. But I'll get that to them.
Hey, Mike, is there and this is my pure ignorance. Are there opportunities for the existing amounts that we have borrowed to like refinance those? That's, I know not the right word, but
No, that
Capitalize them.
the treasurer communicates with our financial advisor all the time. So anything that we could put into a package and borrow at any lower rates, they would.
okay. So that is something that can actually be done given that the rates are so low. Thank you.
The next question was, should all items be on the capital plan and then capital will decide, or is it a separate article?
What items that, all items would be part of capital. But the buildings and the field project would be a separate article. Everything else would be on capital.
So all except buildings and fields.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the town going to participate in the train efficiency program?
And that's something that you'd have to decide Thursday, next Thursday.
Okay. I thought we had discussed that and we had said yes. It could be wrong. Well, it's been.
What's your question, Jack, again?
So Matt Wells and I don't know if it's Chris Zonner, if this was Mr. Carmichael before he departed, working on a energy efficiency agreement with Train's the conduit company. The school buildings are moving forward with it. I thought we had talked about this as a group. Did we provide support for it? Do we need to vote on it?
I thought we did. It was the joint meeting, right? And Matt went over the costs and the program overall. I thought we did vote.
I didn't think we did. I thought we I did.
No, this was pre you, Michael, because I thought it was a meeting that we had over at the middle school.
I think it was discussed when Michael was on as a board member too. I don't know if there was ever a vote, but I'll just let them know that if you want me to let them know that it looks like you want to move forward with it and it's on your agenda to vote on the agreement next Thursday.
I would be comfortable with that direction.
I think the original proposal to get the quote, Renee, was the original discussion presentation I was on about a month ago or so. The presentation, but at that time we did not vote.
Yeah, I mean, I know this has been in the works for quite some time. There are several meetings, so.
Yeah, everything got kind of put to the side when COVID hit. I think that's why it's been so long.
Excellent. The next question is what is going on with the building projects and does it include the athletic complex? I think that is a larger discussion that the board will need to have, and that's not for tonight. And what is the timeline for all this beyond the due date of December 22nd? So I think it's between the Springtown meeting that we've set tonight and whatever the plan is for the building projects. Does that seem accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right, so we're meeting next Thursday for 4 to 5-ish items. Hunky dory. Anything else under new business? Okie dokie. Town manager's report. We have the SEMREC transfer.
If we could, Mr. Chairman, if we could, I know that Chris Zahner and Donna have been waiting patiently, so if we could skip down to the COVID update.
I'm glad you said it because I was going to.
And Chris can give us an update, and I know this week we did have a meeting to talk about preparing for the vaccine, so Chris can fill you in.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, and I want to see if I could share my screen here. Everybody see?
Perfect.
Okay. So I'll kind of go in the order here, and I'll get to the vaccine eventually in this PowerPoint. But just to start off, I wanted to just go over where we were the last time we met. So the last time I was on the select board meeting was October 29th. We were talking about the safe Halloween at the time. At that time, we had 263 total cases since March and 27 active cases. And at that time, we had 7 deaths of Norton residents. You're going to see quite a boost since October 29th. This is now the numbers in December, December 10th. We've more than doubled the total number in a month and a half. So we've added 279 cases since that meeting. We've gone up about 108 active cases, and we've lost 4 additional residents. So the numbers are definitely increased. It's something that everybody kind of predicted, all the public health professionals and scientists predicted was going to happen. Dr. Fauci has been saying it's going to happen. It's not a surprise. I wish it didn't, but it did. It did happen. It came to fruition. So Donna is with me tonight. Donna has been working a gazillion hours trying to do contact tracing. We've got other staff members now trained to help with the contact tracing. And so, you know, as you can imagine, what that entails when on the average per positive case, you've got an average of probably 3 contacts per case. So, you know, there's a lot of phone calls being done.
Hey, Chris.
Yep.
Chris, before we go to the next slide, do you guys still have the availability of, and I can't remember the organization's name, but they were.
MRC?
Yep.
Yep. So we're utilizing some of the retired nurses through the MRC. So yes, we still have more that we can reach out to if need be. But we're keeping it in control right now. So but yes, if we need more, we can reach out for more.
Thank you.
So if you look, April before, well, at the end of October, we were at 56 total cases, and our worst month at that point had been April at 97. You can obviously see November went crazy on us, and December, as of December 10th, we're already meeting our old worst month of 97. So yes, the numbers are going up in a scary direction. We did get designated today to a red community under the new metrics that they use for that. And I'm trying to find out what that actually means for us, because the old red risk level would drop you down from step 2 to step 1, but the governor this past week did that statewide. So I'm not quite sure, and I touched base with Taunton's health department, and she said that's a good question, we're wondering the same thing. So at this point, I mean, it's something that you have to be read for 3 weeks before it's supposed to affect you. I'm not sure what the effect's gonna be yet, because I haven't gotten an answer from the state level. But that being said, that's where we are, and it was expected.
Off the top of your head, what are some of the things we would dial back in that phase if we had to? Is it like restaurants and?
Well, I'll get to the chart that shows you that stuff.
All right, thank you.
Yep. So moving on to the next one. This one here is the age brackets. So you see along the bottom, we've got 0 to 18, 19 to 30, 31 to 40, and so on. All along, and this has been since August 24th, because I started tracking the ages for the schools. And all along, the age range of 19 to 30 has always been our highest group. And I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I don't know if we're doing house parties or what the deal is there. I don't think they'd ever tell us when we do the contact tracing that they're partying. But I know it's not Wheaton College. Wheaton College has gone full remote. And again, I'll get to their numbers here, where Wheaton's gone up about 8,300 tests since we last met. They've gone up about 18 total positives since October, which isn't too bad considering the time, just about 2 months time. And the positivity rate for them went up 0.01. It was at 0.06, now it's at 0.07. So I'm not quite sure why we're having this issue with the age bracket of 19 to 30, but that's always been our issue. So here's what happened. So Governor Baker's order number 57 that was released on December 8th, requiring all cities and towns to move from phase 3 step 2 down to phase 3 step 1. This order goes into effect as of 12:01 a.m. on Sunday, December 13th. So you can see here that phase 3 step 1 on the left and phase 3 step 2 on the right. And if we look down to some of the things that will affect Norton, the very first one is not something that really affects us. Outdoor gatherings at event venues and public settings, that's something that we have, certain times we'll have stuff through the parks and recs that we have to watch for capacity. I was dealing with Estelle Flett for the Wreath Across America event that she was having. So, it's something that we got to pay attention to there. We don't necessarily have outdoor theater or performance venues, roller skating rinks, trampolines, obstacle course, that type of thing. Arcades, indoor and outdoor recreation businesses, low contact activities. So that would be something where, we could have an effect on the town of Norton with some of our businesses, some of the sports. And that's dropped down from 50% capacity down to 40% capacity. So it's not huge, but it is, it is a hit. Driving and flight schools, same thing, down to 40. Gyms, libraries, museums, down to 40. Norton Public Library has gone to curbside again. They've shut down the indoor. They're not open to the public at this point. It's a precautionary measure with the positivity rate going up the way it is, and they're concerned about the books. They're concerned about being able to quarantine the books and the safety of the employees, and so they've gone back to curbside. And then retail fittings, restaurants is basically their entertainment has dropped. So the music performances were allowed to have indoors, but no singing. And now they can have it indoors, but no singing and no brass or wind instruments. So essentially you could have an acoustic set or a piano, playing in there. Retail fitting rooms, I'm not sure we have any in town. So, it's not a huge hit. Honestly, the biggest thing we have to pay attention to I want to skip past to, oops. Well, let me go back. Sorry. The biggest thing that we have to remember is we got to pay attention here. I mean, there is things we can do. It's the good old-fashioned safety precautions that we've been doing all along, and we just can't let our guard down. And I think that's what's happening. I mean, we had Thanksgiving that probably gave us quite a boost in numbers. We've recently seen those numbers going up, and we feel a lot of it is from Thanksgiving. November had election. I thought we ran a pretty safe election, but you never know. The virus it could be silent, and it could be asymptomatic people, and you just don't know. So all we can do is what we can do, and that is continue the safe precautionary measures such as wearing a mask, socially distance, and avoiding large crowds. So Governor Baker on December 9th announced that the COVID vaccine was going to be distributed if, in fact, the FDA finally grants their approval. I know the FDA, after I made this PowerPoint, the committee that met today has voted to endorse Pfizer's vaccine and push it on to the FDA to get approved next week for a vote. So that's a good sign. And Governor Baker feels that if that happens the way it's supposed to, that he'll receive the first shipment on December 15th. And this is kind of how the phases would go, as I'm sure a lot of you have already seen, but I'll kind of go over it with you. So phase one, they're hitting the healthcare medical facilities. People dealing directly with COVID patients are probably going to be first in those medical facilities. Emergency room care, ICU care. They're also looking to get the long-term care facilities, rest homes, assisted living facilities. I'm sure you're aware that we've had a situation in town with one of our assisted living facilities, and that's been quite a hike in our number as well. Police, fire, and medical services is also in phase one. Any congregate settings, corrections, or shelters we really don't have to deal with. Home-based healthcare workers and healthcare workers doing non-COVID facing care. Phase two is where you get into a little bit more people like public health workers, public works, sanitation, schools, K through 12. I'm not sure why it says K through 12 yet, because I don't think we've got it. I don't think they have it approved for kids yet. And the approval that was pushed through today for FDA, well, not approval, but the endorsement by that committee was for ages 16 and up. So we really don't have a kids vaccine yet, as far as I know. Individuals with 2+ comorbidities, and then also adults 65+ and individuals with at least one comorbidity. I can't even say that word. Sorry.
Conditions. That's what we just followed.
Yeah, somebody with a condition. Yeah.
Chris, is that section for the early education K through 12, is that for the workers?
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because they don't have one for the kids, and I don't think they're expected to do one for the kids until after the general public's been done on phase three. I think they're pushing for the phase three. They're pushing to get to phase, they have a lack of vaccines as it is. So I think they're going to be doing the kids after phase three. They're going to be pushing to get the adults done first. So that might be what they're looking for.
I get it, yes.
And then again, phase three is the general public. Now again, these are all estimated timeframes. So we had phase one, December to February, phase two, February to April, phase three, April to June. We, as a group in the town, we pulled together Board of Health, Fire, Police, Town Manager, Council on Aging, and a number of other people and stakeholders, we've put together a group to start discussing, Dr. Beata was also involved, to just start discussing the plans for when the vaccine's available so that we could put together a clinic for the town, and how we're going to handle the population as a whole, and how we break it up so that we're not slammed with everybody at once. And so we're putting those plans together now. We have emergency plans that we've had in place for quite some time that we're going to use as guidance for putting these plans together. The only issue that we have with those is they were built around the high school, and we're going to try and probably move it to the middle school for traffic purposes. And the reason why is it's going to be a drive-through style, it looks like right now. So the middle school has a nice big circle that goes around the school and makes its way out the other side. We've talked about stuff like staging areas. If we have an overcrowding of cars, we could possibly use, with their permission, the church across the street for some staging. So as 6 cars come out, we'll put 6 more in, and that type of thing. So we're in the planning stages for that. At this point, we still don't know if this time frame is going to work, if what's going to be available, which vaccine we're going to end up with, which is a concern for us, with regards to the cooling that you've all heard about, with the Pfizer vaccine having to be over 100 degrees below zero, that type of thing. So we don't know at this point, and we're still waiting to hear, but we're trying to get everything planned that we can until we do find out that information.
Chris, I mean, and I might be talking out of turn here, have you looked at options for a freezer like that? I mean, I'm assuming there are no options for them because they're all being taken by the government to support the vaccine, but have you had any options for the town to have a freezer like that?
100 degrees below zero?
I mean, they do have freezers like that. I wasn't sure if you've done any investigation.
I haven't done that yet, no, I haven't. There's going to be, from what I'm being told from the state end of things, there's going to be strict handling issues. I think that if anything, the state's probably going to drop it off in that freezer, and they're going to supply it. So
I wasn't sure if that's how they were going to handle it, but
because I don't think they want to rely on anybody else's equipment if they can help it. I mean, the hospitals right now have the capabilities, so they're okay with that. But I think when it gets into the town level, I think they're going to be a little bit. They're going to start supplying us with more equipment to help us with that.
Okay.
I find this. I'm sorry, Jack.
Oh, go ahead, Wendy.
I was just going to say, I find this interesting because in other states, they are specifically identifying healthcare facilities, hospitals, where they need to bring this equipment in and they're going to do the vaccines. Like, and literally it could be, like, I'll just refer to Ohio, like in some situations, it's like 2 hours away from people, right? And they have a cluster that's more in the eastern part of the state. Like, I'm just surprised that it's in Massachusetts going to go down to a town level.
So it's not really down to a town level. The Board of Health and the other stakeholders in this town want to help the town. We want to do this for the town. To be honest with you, the state's not looking for us to do it.
Okay.
They're not forcing us to do it. We can request to do so, in which Donna is actually working on the application for the request. Because, the more we get people vaccinated, the quicker we can get out of this pandemic. And we hope, I mean, obviously we're not forcing anybody to do it, but we hope that we could get, a good portion of the population done.
But Chris, this will be open up to any resident, correct?
Correct.
That meets those guidelines? Okay.
Right. Yeah, so it meets the age guidelines or whatever's in place at that time. Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of discussion about requirements for vaccination and all that. Is this committee looking at certain, not right away, obviously, but later on down the road, we need 60%, more than 60% for herd immunity or so forth. That's the news I hear on the news, right? Are there talks, will there be discussions about things that the town is going to require for you if you want to participate in X, Y, Z in the town, that you have to be vaccinated?
I don't know if that's constitutionally okay, but I haven't got into that. I think all we could do is promote the benefits of it, which we have plans of doing so between now and then. And, you know, in hopes that, you know, people understand that it's safe. I think the other thing that's going to be a key factor is, you know, all these people going ahead of them. They're going to get to see it, you know, how it's working, and if these people are affected, you know, with adverse reactions at all, that type of thing. So I think that's going to help us. Here's, you know, praying that there is no adverse reactions and that everything goes good. I mean, again, we don't even have, at this moment, we don't even have an FDA vaccine approved, you know? So, everything is hypothetical right now, but we're doing our best to try and be proactive and be ready. But we have plans of plenty of education going out, plenty of public outreach, getting together with Jason on some videos, and that type of thing. So, you know, hopefully we can get the 60+% to do it and get the herd immunity going. The one thing that people do have to understand too is that getting the vaccine doesn't eliminate a mask. It doesn't end it for everybody. It's not just done at that point. There's still going to be, I'm going to say, we're looking at probably at least midsummer before they could say, you know, okay, I think we're going to be good. Let's take our masks off. And that's, I think, might be optimistic, but let's see.
It's very optimistic, yeah.
I think you're being very optimistic
Yeah.
too. Although it's appreciated in this time, right? Any sort of sense of hope.
I'm trying. I
Yeah.
don't want to scare anybody, but, you know, it's just, you know, it's so much unknown with this whole thing, and things change every day. I was going to sit down with Jason the week after, which would have been last week, the week after Thanksgiving, and do a video on COVID. And I was going to put together a video about what to do if you have COVID as far as the guidance for quarantine. And just before I was going to do it, they changed it. Now I looked at it, I said, I could have spent that whole time sitting down with him and doing that video, and it would have been obsolete the minute the governor comes out and changes it. So it's not that I don't want to, it's just that things just keep changing, and no matter what you put out there. I mean, the only thing that hasn't changed is the safety of wearing a mask, socially distance, washing your hands, avoid large crowds, you know, that type of stuff. So,
What message did the governor send out about quarantining that changed?
the quarantine guidance changed. It used to be that you would have to quarantine for 14 days if you were a close contact to a positive case, to a known positive case. Now, what their guidance is, they adapted to they adopted the CDC's new guidance, which is now, if you are in contact to a case and you are symptom-free, and you, for the first 5 days, and you get a test on the 5th or 6th day, or even the 7th day, you can be released from quarantine on the 8th day.
So I think, Chris, that you need to put some qualifiers in there. If you read the CDC guidance, their guidance actually hasn't changed. They still recommend a 14-day requirement, and in that specific article, they stated about 3 or 4 times. What they're saying is that to reduce the financial burden, where needed, they are recommending these alternate options, but they are still just options, and there is still risk. There's still, they show within that article the percentage of risk that people can still be positive and can spread the disease. So I think you just need to be careful that the guidance hasn't changed. They're still recommending 14 days, but they're providing options where it's economic, where it releases some of the economic burden.
So the documents that I've gotten from the state show what I just said for a symptom-free known contact. If you're symptom-free and you don't get a test, you can be released from quarantine after 10 days of quarantine. And if you have any symptom at all, and you, even if you get a negative test, if you have any symptom at all, you have to do the full 14 days. And that's the guidance that I was given.
I'd like to see that if you wouldn't mind sharing.
I don't have it in front of me here, but.
No, not now. Just send it later. That's fine.
Okay. But at any rate, so that's, you know, again, just going back to the original conversation, was things that like dealing with the changes of these guidances is a full-time job. Just dealing with the guidance changes is a full-time job. It's constant. It's, you know, just when you start to get used to something and you think you've got it down, it changes. If anybody wants to learn more about the COVID vaccine, here's the website, mass.gov/COVID vaccine. Again, mass.gov/COVID vaccine. Gives you plenty of great information on the vaccine itself and how safe it is and that type of stuff. Finally, again, I'm going back to the old faithful of the safety precautions of wearing a mask, maintaining social distancing, washing your hands as often as possible, and use a sanitizer. Avoid large gatherings and stay home if you're experiencing any symptoms. That's what we can do right now. That's what we have the power to do right now, and we have to remember that. And I ask everybody in the town, and if anybody that's listening, to please take these precautions into consideration. This is a serious, serious matter, and the people that we're talking to are very, very, very sick. It's not something you want to go through. So please take the time to do the right thing and wear a mask, socially distance, wash your hands, avoid large crowds, and stay home if you're experiencing any symptoms. So with that, I'll take any more questions.
That's right, Kristen. I'm doing all the things I do. Wear a mask, maintain social distancing, wash my hands, obey large governments, and I'm doing what we told. And I heard from the New York Times that the FDA advisory panel gives green light to Pfizer vaccine, and the lesson the experts mean that the agency will likely okay the vaccine use, paving the way for healthcare workers to begin getting shots next week. So, not residents, there's lots to get entitled with this vaccine, and praying that the people will get vaccinated and people will take the vaccine. And I want to get back to my church services on Sunday and sure, I want to get back to the library. I want to get back to normal life in the spring and summer. If we get vaccinated, we're going to be back to normal spring and summer. So hang on, Norton and I, then we'll get there. Hopefully bring normalcy come spring and summertime.
Very good, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Hey, Jackie.
Thank you for the update, Chris. So going back a bit now, we were talking about the freezers. I wouldn't expect anyone to buy their own. The freezer like that costs on average $12,000 to $15,000. It requires an awful lot of juice to run. I think another one of your points, Chris, about just getting the vaccine doesn't mean you can stop wearing a mask. At least one of those masks, one of those vaccines is a 2-shot system. You get the first, you wait almost a month. You get the second shot and then have to wait 14 days for the antibodies to fully develop. So even if you do get one, you're 45 days out from achieving that targeted immunity. So it's coming, but we need to be patient. We can't lose sight at this point.
That's right, Christian. We also want to get back to the meetings at the town hall. That's right. If vaccines, we're going to be patient, and we'll get there. Come spring and come summertime, we'll get there.
Hey, Chris, can I ask you a couple questions on the potential to actually distribute vaccines in town?
Yep.
So, I mean, I know you guys are already taxed from perspective of just doing the post-contact, right? So just, and this might be, I'm not expecting an answer. I'm sure that it's on your list of things to discuss, but what would we be looking at for staffing? I mean, because, I don't think Donna can do another job.
A big player in it is, I believe, and we're going to, again, we're in the early stages of the planning, but a big player is going to be the fire department, paramedics, and EMTs. They're capable of doing the vaccinations. Mike Wilson is going to be a key part. He's the EMS director for the fire department. He's going to be a key player for this. So, Chief, can you answer some of that?
Yeah, you're doing a pretty good job on your own over there.
I'm trying, man.
Yeah, but no, that's correct. We have over 30 paramedics here, all trained to give injections. I know even in the past we've assisted with doing flu shots. We do the flu shots for our own personnel. Mike Wilson, our EMS director, is also one, and has played a big part in helping coordinate that in the past. He'll be doing that in the future too. So we're also well stocked with PPE currently, and we're stocking up even more just to anticipate the likelihood of us assisting with vaccinations too. So
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. And Chris, like of course, February, March were the coldest months. Do you think that's still doable with the teens outside around the school for a long period of time?
So the second phase, we're thinking more about the third phase. The second phase, we felt is if we're going to be involved with it, it's going to be a mobile type setup where we're going to have a team set up mobily to go from, like the group areas like 120 West Main. You'll have a 65 plus age bracket and that type of thing. But as far as what we're looking forward to the general public vaccinations. And that would be phase 3, which is April to June.
Much more pleasant outdoors.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Chris or Donna?
I don't have any questions, but I did throw up the CDC link on their quarantine just for the information. And Chris and Donna, if you guys can take a look at that specifically, again, they're still endorsing the 14 days, and they make note of the options for a shorter quarantine based on local conditions. I would just like you guys to consider that in respect to those conditions around here, giving the essentially double population right now of folks who are infected with coronavirus, on whether or not that we would do something different within the town of Norton. So just for consideration, and if needed, I'd certainly be interested in talking about this again next week.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely look at it. I'm going by what the state gave us on.
No, yeah, I understand. I'm surprised that they would. I mean, I was surprised that the CDC put this guidance out right when we're hitting, record numbers.
Well, I think it's all based off of this. Go ahead, Donna.
During all the contact tracing that many of us are doing, one thing that's become apparent is the vast majority of people, when they are going to get infected with COVID, do it 5 to 8 days after a known contact with a confirmed case. So that's why, looking at the data, they realize that a very small percentage of people actually get it on the 14th day. I have had, in the 500 cases we've had, I had 2 people who actually got COVID infection 14 days after their exposure. And this was back in April when everyone knew exactly what their exposures were because it was lockdown. And this was a couple, and they had just come back from Spain, and they had arrived and they were in Florida, so they were residents of Norton, but they were staying in a condo in Florida, and on the 14th day, they both came down with it. But pretty much, they're looking at all the data that we're collecting, and they see that most people don't take 14 days. So to make everyone quarantine for 14 days is first of all, are they actually really doing it? And I think they recognize that if they shorten the period of quarantine, more people will probably actually stick to it than if they make it 14 days. So I think it's looking at the greater good.
I agree with you, right? And they say it's to reduce the burden on the economy. I mean, I totally get it. There's different tests that happen too, and some of those are more accurate than others. I mean, it makes sense. Their thought, I think, too, is that if you don't have that 14-day requirement, because we as a nation haven't decided, and I think this is something that we did wrong, but we haven't decided that we would pay people to quarantine essentially to stop the spread, and many other countries are doing it now, but because we didn't, to your point, 10 days, people will more likely get tested, more likely report that they've been exposed, and hopefully that'll help stop the spread. Right. We just have to be careful. I mean, it's a balance between stopping the spread or at least slowing it, and right now there are no indications that we're slowing it, right? So that's why I said I'm surprised that the CDC came out with this guidance when they did. It raises a lot of questions, but I understand the point behind it. It's just a bit daunting, especially given the numbers right now, and the fact that we knew it was going to happen because of the holidays, and what's going to happen now with this the next two set of holidays that are coming. So, but Donna and Chris, I mean, it certainly, you know, I know you guys are working tirelessly for this, and we appreciate that, and thank you. And if there's any way, and I'm going to speak for the board here, Jack, I'm sure you'd say it too, but any way that we can support you, like, please do, you know, let us know. I mean, we're willing to get messages out, you know, do whatever we need. You want to train us on making phone calls? I'm sure some of us would do that too, if that were in our purview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Honestly, we've had a lot of tremendous support in town too, just to put it out there real quick, that between the fire, police, and the school system, I mean, it's just been tremendous, along with others, you know, the senior council on aging and you know, veterans agent. We've had a lot of good support in town, and the select board as well has always had our back, and we know that. So thank you. Oh, and I don't want to forget our infamous emergency management assistant director over there, Ray Court, who's awesome. He's an awesome asset. So, Renee, just so you know, I just sent over the new guidance from Massachusetts to your email.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Hey, Chris, don't give Ray too much credit. Sometimes his ego gets a little out of control. We gotta keep it in check, all right? I mean, this is.
I'm sorry, I can't give man enough credit. He's awesome.
He does a great job.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right. You, Donna, Ray, and Chris have done a good job during this pandemic, and once again, we will all get through this and praying first. Normalcy comes spring, summer. Once vaccine works, we'll pray first. Normalcy comes spring and summer. Right?
Thank you, Peter. Stay safe.
With all the compliments that Mr. Cord is getting tonight, I think he's going to become Mr. Wireless. He's going to evolve.
Run, Ray, run.
2.5 hours in, the dad jokes just start falling off, guys. I'm sorry.
Thank you, guys.
Anything for Chris, Donna? I mean, this is great. I can't imagine just the challenges that you guys are going through. And it's frustrating to see the resurgence that we are. I think people are just in COVID fatigue, and it's a shame, because this is exactly what folks were saying was going to happen back in March and April, and here we are. So we're all very fortunate to have you guys on our side.
Well, thank you. A big thank you to Donna.
Big thank you to Crit.
All right, guys.
Just, Mr. Chairman,
Good.
while we're on COVID, just to give you an update on the CARES Fund. So the town of Norton was allotted $1,758,770 under the CARES Fund. Right now, we have a balance of $311,866, and all departments were instructed last week that under the guidelines, any money that's left, anything that's going to be used for, we have to have purchased, paid for, and it's a reimbursement. So all this has to be done by the end of December. So anything that people think they're going to need that qualifies under the CARES Fund has to be submitted by the end of December. It has to be paid for and the bill submitted. And with that balance, unfortunately, some of it is $311,480 that's been transferred from the money that we thought we would get from FEMA. But FEMA has changed their thoughts midway through the process. And FEMA's now virtually only covering items that have to do with public safety, police, and fire. On the first round, they did reimburse us for mails, but they're not doing that now. And they're only reimbursing for anything related to emergencies that police and fire are dealing with. And I know, like, one of the things that'll be covered is we're on to our third positive in the police department since Thanksgiving. And so this will cover overtime that's needed to cover those shifts. But it's gotten so ridiculous that for the PPE that's purchased. They want to know what emergency it was purchased for. They want to know the GPS coordinates of where it's being stored. It's gotten crazy with FEMA in the end. And I know the chief can attest to what Becky Maury and his department's been going through and dealing with FEMA.
Yeah, I wish she was on tonight because I'd like to publicly thank her. She's been doing a ton of work for a while, trying to deal with FEMA and trying to get us as much money as possible back in reimbursement. And I'm not sure if anybody's dealt with the FEMA reimbursement process before. Hopefully not, because it's long and tedious. Just when you think you're coming to the finish line, they throw 10 more things that you have to supply and do for them. So, I would just like to acknowledge and thank her. She's been doing a really good job and been very patient.
And the frustrating thing is, you go with their guidelines and you have these expenses and then they don't cover it. So, we're just concerned that we're going to get stuck finding the money to cover some of these costs that we thought FEMA would cover in the past. But, just a very frustrating process, almost to the fact that they don't want to cover you preparing. They just want to cover once there's an outbreak. So they don't want to cover PPE that you're buying to be prepared in case there's an outbreak. They'll cover it if there is an outbreak, and then you have to address it. It's just kind of crazy.
So will they do that come 2021? I mean, because it's not miraculously going to go away on January 1st.
Well, that's interesting because, as we were just talking about administering the vaccine, there's going to be costs to that. And
right.
So, I mean, I think what we're all hoping is that down in Washington, they're able to get a bill through that does have funding for the cities and towns again. Or at least the hope is that they'll roll over some of this money that still exists, that you can use it next year for those purposes.
Has anyone heard any discussions about that potential to roll it over?
I know James Coelho and meetings that he's had with other towns, there's hope of that, but no
confirmation.
No confirmation that it's going to happen. And so if we knew that could happen, it's crazy. If we knew that was going to happen, but now we're looking to expend some of this money because we don't want to lose it, but we'd much rather hold it and wait till next year to make sure we have funds available if we have to deal with some of these crises. But now, I know the chief was going out getting some more PPE and also some gowns. He found a company in Franklin that is supplying some more gowns for the town. So
we found two companies supplying gowns and also N95s where literally a lot of places selling N95s for $48 a piece now. And we're still, when we do have to purchase stuff, we're getting N95s for about 76 cents a piece. And gowns we're getting for about $1 now through this recent thing that we were able to find. So, which, a lot of them are going for $7 a piece if you just go in a random place and try to buy them. So we've been doing pretty good. We've been working hard to try to, make the dollars that we do have to spend stretch as far as possible. So.
Just, if I could just read some of the information that Becky gave me. This one sentence, these are responses back from FEMA. Please provide a narrative and justification of what emergency work they were performing while using sanitizing supplies. This is how it's getting. It's crazy.
For every emergency in every town in the city across the country.
Yep. Who used the sanitizing supplies by department, personnel, and provide location where the sanitizing supplies were used. Building name, address, and GPS. It's just crazy.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So you had said that there was a remaining balance on the CARES funds of 311,866 or so. You mentioned 311,400 as FEMA funds that are no longer being reimbursed?
Those funds, we're now taking those expenses, putting them under the CARES.
So we have about $466 remaining?
In the CARES fund?
Yeah, or is the 311,866?
It's confusing because both numbers are close.
Yeah.
So the CARES fund, after we take the $311,492 that was in FEMA and move it into CARES, we'll still have a remaining balance of $311,866.01 in the CARES fund remaining.
Okay, so we do still have a viable balance.
Yep.
With which we can go. Okay.
Chief, can I ask, protocol-wise, I know early on you guys were working with the Board of Health on getting a list of I guess, locations where there were folks who were infected with COVID. Is that still something that's occurring with the high numbers so that your teams, your folks are prepared, like fully gowned, or is protocol that they just go fully gowned now anyway?
No, that's a good question, but that, absolutely, we're still doing that. Chris and Donna have been doing a great job. They get us that information typically on a daily basis. We get an updated list with the addresses, no personal information or anything like that. That gets immediately forwarded out to all of our personnel. Dispatchers are still asking screening questions and letting us know, to use precautions or to look at our computers for additional information prior to going on calls. But even with that being said, we're almost treating everybody as a potentially positive case. So at a minimum, we're wearing eye shields, gloves, and surgical masks with any index of suspicion, upgraded to the gowns and N95s in addition to the gloves and the eye shields. Any congregate care facility, we're treating as everybody there is positive, even on fire alarm calls if we're going in. The firefighters with their gear on will be wearing surgical masks and eye shields and gloves, so we started changing our policies back in February. And, every time we learn something more, we change and update those policies to keep us as safe as we can. So, knock on wood, but we've been lucky not to have anybody positive here yet, so.
Should have said that.
I know, I just knocked on wood there too.
A little bit of luck and, a lot of diligence by our members, so I have to thank them as well for that.
So, Mike, is the philosophy to try to spend every last penny of that remaining 311K?
It's going to be hard to do, but any justifiable expenses that people think, they were told last week, any justifiable expenses that people think they have, things they need, do it now so we can take advantage of it.
And I'm assuming that the school folks are involved in that as well.
Yep.
Any additional that they have.
Yep, they were part of that. Yep.
Okay. I think it'd just be a shame to leave any money on the table. I know there's a chance it could roll over, but I have zero faith in our federal government doing anything, as evidenced by what you were reading from Becky. They just can't seem to get out of their own way. So let's spend it while we got it, would be my opinion. Okay.
And with the CARES fund, the money comes quickly, where with FEMA, sometimes it's 2 years before you see reimbursement. It's crazy.
Mike, or maybe Chief, this is yours. Have we had opportunities over the past 30 or 45 days where we can submit for reimbursement and tie it back to a call, even though we've had equipment for it to essentially replenish that stock?
Yeah, certainly. So, pretty much any opportunity that we have, we've been capitalizing on as far as reimbursement goes. Even when FEMA does reimburse, they do it at a 75% rate. So we were doing the reimbursement through FEMA at 75%, anticipating taking 25% of the remainder out of the CARES account. But any personnel, where people have been positive, or even if they've had to stay home in quarantine due to a family member being positive, We've been putting in for that. Some of the people, all the PPE that we haven't been able to get from state or regional agencies and so forth, we've been submitting for reimbursement for that. And utilizing the CARES account for the things that we do need to support COVID, but FEMA probably won't reimburse, so.
Thank you.
Anything else on COVID, my friends? All right, everyone stay safe out there.
Sean, stay on.
Okay.
Sean can stay on for the next subject. If I could just move on to the SEMREC transfer. That happened on the 8th, and everything went smoothly. And, I know the police chief was very satisfied with the transition over. And I don't know if Sean has anything to say on that.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's been great. The transition went really smooth. The SEMREC people did a really good job assisting with the transition. Our fire alarm personnel, especially Captain Wood and firefighter Wilson, did a great job switching over all the fire alarm equipment that had to come from the old dispatch center over to here in the fire station. We had to set up a system so that we can still monitor that. But honestly, it's been great so far. Just prior to the transition, SEMREC supplied us with a new station alerting system. It's something that we wanted to get for a long time, but couldn't necessarily afford. So it's about probably close to a $20,000 upgrade in just equipment that we have here too. So, but yeah, no issues. A couple minor little things here and there that we anticipated, but everything's been really smooth, to be honest with you.
That's great. Like whoever put that graphic together about the numbers to call for what, man, high five. I mean, that's a really clear cut, great piece to have. So thank you for whoever put that together. And
yes,
all of it.
SEMREC put that together, and then credit to Charlene because she kind of went through and made it more relevant to us and kind of cleaned it up a little bit because it had stuff regarding the stadium and that sort of thing on there. So I think they both did a nice job, with that. We've transitioned here at the fire department to having, like a phone tree type of system. We've updated our website and stuff just to make things work a little more efficiently and stuff too. So Charlie did a lot of work with that too.
Thank you both.
And Ray too. I think Ray helped too, right, Ray? You already had too much credit tonight, though, I think.
Even if we didn't, we'll give him kudos.
All right. Excellent. Anything else on
Chief Clark, I didn't notice, but Chief Clark is on. If he has anything to say about the transfer over.
Hello there. No, it went very smooth. I think it's, I think Norton is commonly knocked for poor planning. I'll tell you that this is a major plan that was put together, and it's really going to benefit Norton. We could never, what SEMREC is going to do with quality control, quality assurance, retention, accountability, and just the overall space they have, we could never do in a million years.
Hey, Chief, is it possible, obviously not now with the numbers so high, but could we get a tour of can you arrange for a tour of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For any members of the board that might like to do that?
Yes, you'll be very impressed. We went up there, Monday, Ray? There was just a couple of us that went up there. It's kind of like a thing out of war games, but our initial plan was to move into the old Mansfield Police Department until this came upon us, and this is just a much better facility for future growth and development, and it's very good.
Excellent, that's great.
That's right, Chief Clark, can't wait to take a tour into that new facility.
All right.
Have you guys received any feedback from folks who've called in?
So to be honest with you, so SEMREC took over our 911 on September 1st. So we haven't. It's really been pretty smooth. The dispatchers that stayed on, I want to give them credit. They, Mandy, Jimmy, Brandon, Emily, and Al. I mean, they did a hell of a job. But SEMREC took over on September 1st, and it's
it really was flawless when it happened. So, you know, even though we say the official change of the dispatches happened on Tuesday, you know, Semrick has been taking on 911 calls for over 2 months now. And I think I had a conversation with you, Renee, about cell phone calls, and in a short period of time, our cell phone calls for 911 will go to Semrick as well, and they'll be able to plot your position within, you know, 3 meters or so. So the technology is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I think that'll be huge. And I know when we spoke, I think I told you, like, there was actually a state police officer in front of me, and I got out of the car to tell him what was going on, but I didn't, because it was something I saw in overpass when I was on 495. I had no idea which street it was. Like, I actually gave the wrong name and had to double back to look. So I think that'll be huge, right? So when somebody calls, you can just say, like, they can say where you are, and it kind of makes sense of what you're trying to tell them.
Mm-hmm. And what will happen now, before, if you called 911, it would go to Framingham, and then the call would be transferred to Norton from there. Now, when you dial 911, it goes right to Semrick. So there's time saved because you don't have that middle person.
That's great. Well, thank you guys for all the work and the effort. I know it wasn't easy. I can't wait to see it, though.
I'll send you a picture by email of the inside. I don't know if you saw that yet, but I'll send that to you.
No, I haven't. That'd be great. Thank you. Ray, you're muted. I know they're communications guy, but.
I posted some pictures on Facebook that I took up there Monday. So.
They're going to drag me in the Facebook world. Thank you.
Well, kudos to everybody involved. It's really exciting, and it sounds like this is going to be a benefit to all the residents in need. So, very nice. Move on to FY21 budget update.
Can I share my screen when I go over the? Can I share the screen first and then open something up, or do I have to open it up first?
You should be able, if you share your desktop, you should be able to share whatever you end up pulling up, but just be wary. If you go into your email, people will see whatever it is that you are sharing. You might want to open it. You might want to open it first and then.
Well, when I try and do that, it covers the share button and then I can't see it. Let's see.
Is it covering it or is it moving it, Mike? Because Zoom likes to move things too.
All right, let me minimize it, and there we go. Is that showing?
Yep, that's up.
Okay. Just wanted to go over some of the information, give an update. The unemployment rate is now at 6.7%, and that was as of October. I won't go over the previous months, but let's see. Previously, we were at 8.4, and before that, we were at 10.1. So hopefully that's a sign that isn't going to change as things seem to be getting worse. And as far as revenue, we've reduced some of these estimates. On the left side, you see the budget estimates. But later on, there's another sheet that I'll go over. Before we set the tax rate, we reduced some of these estimates. And a lot of it was covered by some of our new growth. But so right now, we're about 500,000 below what we were at last year. And a big chunk of that is Condyne pulled out some permits last year in October that were up around $400,000. So hopefully, I know Condyne is before conservation now, so hopefully things move along and they get the permit for their next building in this fiscal year. And one of the motor vehicle excise is coming in very low, and that's one of the ones that we dropped by 200,000 in our estimates. And as you can see, our estimates on here for the town was $4,443,000 in estimated receipts for the entire year for FY21.
Mike, is that, so the prior year total was 4.3 million?
Prior year was 4.366 was the estimate. We actually came in, I think I have the end of the.
Looks like it was 6,050,000.
Yeah. Here, if you look on this, you can see FY20 last year at the end, we came in at 6 million. And where our estimates for this year are 2 million, almost 2 million below that.
Where are we looking, Mike? Can you move your mouse?
So, sure.
I don't know if we'll be able, oh yeah, we can see it.
So right there, that's what we, that was the final number that came in last year, 6,051,494. And so our estimates for this year are 4,443,420.
And then is the number to the far right of that column, is that where we are now, the 3.6 million? More columns over.
So right now we're at 813. Nope, I'm below it. 813,000 year to date. So FY21 year to date, we're at 813,631.
So we are about 20% of the way to our revenue halfway through the fiscal year.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound too rosy.
Nope. And this sheet.
May I say something, Chairman?
Absolutely.
The motor vehicle excise tax is the biggest item in that schedule that you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And those collections, the majority of them, like I would say 85% of that revenue comes in after February, between February and April.
Okay.
So we're going to be getting probably close to $2 million in towards the end of the year. So that's why the numbers look the way they do right now.
Okay.
I mean, they're still not as good as we would want them to be at this time, but we're almost halfway through the year, and you're looking at 800,000. You're saying, how are we going to get to 4 million? But we are, once motor vehicles excise tax collections come through in March and April.
So James, it's probably instead of the 20% down, that looks like we're realistically probably only 8 to 9.
8 to 9% below average, I would say, yeah. Okay. I'm pretty confident we will collect enough to make our estimates. My concern is that we depend on doing extremely well like we did in years past. Last year we collected over $6 million. The difference between what we collected and what we estimated becomes free cash. It's part of what makes up free cash. So as you can see, the smaller the difference, the smaller the free cash. And we need free cash in order to survive at this point. So it's not just meeting the estimate, it's hopefully making at least $1.5 million to $2 million over the estimate so that we can have free cash.
So are you saying, James, if we don't make that over the estimate, we will have nothing in free cash by the end of this fiscal year?
That's a possibility. It's a possibility.
And then what?
Because, well, it all depends on whether we use up every single budget too. You know, because the free cash is also made up of budget turnbacks. So if the school, the town, everybody uses their budget to the penny, and our estimated receipts come out exactly to what we estimate, then we have a perfectly balanced budget and an actual, then there is no excess. The free cash comes from the excess revenue and the refunds from the departments turning back budgets.
Is that usually a request from other departments? Is there's a point if we're going to have an 8% shortfall, it looks like, let's just throw that number out there, 8%. Is there a request usually done to the school committee or the school department?
We've never requested, in the 16 years that I've been here, we've never requested that. Once the town meeting approves the budget, we pretty much go with it. And if they need it, they have to use it. We've never had a negative free cash either in the 15 years that I've been here. So I'm hoping that's still going to be the case. I know the free cash went down this year compared to the year before. I expect it to continue to go that route, the way we are spending money and not collecting enough to meet the town's needs, you know. But I don't know. This is a total different year because of the pandemic too. So we'll know more once the state comes out with the state aid numbers for next fiscal year, and we'll see how the collections keep coming. That's all we can do at this point.
I think this goes back to that discussion we had, right, James, a few months ago about we can't rely on free cash, right? It's not free.
Yeah, it's not free and it's not cash, like they say.
Right.
Yeah, we can't rely on it. There are towns, and we are one of those towns that rely on free cash. If we don't have free cash, we pretty much don't have anything to go to town meeting with to supplement budgets and to do the things we do. Like at the October town meeting, we had to increase some of the budgets, and that all came from free cash.
What do we look at from the stabilization fund perspective, and what are opportunities to use money from there?
If it came down to it, we will have to do it if that's what it comes down to. We used $439,000, I believe, at the June town meeting. We did not put any money in at the October town meeting. So, I don't know if we want to deplete that fund more or what the plan is, but if there is an emergency and we have to use it, that's what that's there for too, It just doesn't look that good to the financial world out there, to the credit rating agencies.
Right.
They usually compare you to the surrounding towns and to, and if the other towns are doing the same thing because of the pandemic and everything else, maybe it won't look as bad. But that's something that I really don't know for sure.
James, do we have a target of that stabilization fund for, we're obviously going to be going to get some financing for possibly the buildings if it all passes. Is there a target number that we have to have in that stabilization fund to get favorable rates?
What they usually do is they look at what's on the stabilization fund and what your free cash balance is, and they want to be around between 9 and 11% is what the auditors have said in the past. We're right around there, pretty close right now.
But I thought he said 7%, and we were at 10, and he felt, because I remember questioning this.
I think he might have said 7% of just the stabilization fund.
I remember him bucketing them together. Like in his eyes, he said it didn't matter if it was stabilization or free cash.
Yep.
It's still the total amount that they're looking at. And I thought he said 7% is really like 5% we could get to is like the lowest number, but 7% is a good one. And I'll have to look at my notes, but I thought he said that we were probably a percentage or a bit more higher than
yeah.
where we
it
should
is
be.
subjective to the opinion of different accountants.
Well, he's
and
our
different
auditor,
agencies.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, this
yep.
is the guy we've used for a decade or more.
Yep. No, he is our auditor, and but you know he does not work for Standards and Poor's either. There are different numbers out there, and I've seen from the state. I'm pretty sure I saw it was between 9 and 11%. But you know, 7%. If that's where we want to be, that's fine too, I guess. I don't know how much that would affect the rate. The rates are really low right now anyway, due to the way things are going, which hurts our investment income too, by the way. So it's a catch-22.
Right. So, Mike, what are some plans if, there's a really good possibility we're not going to hit the target that we need? So where do we dial back?
Well, we don't know if we're not going to hit that target yet, but what we'll be doing is instituting a spending freeze for departments. We've already more or less done that anything that they're going to spend, they have to have it cleared first, any expenses. This sheet, right now we are through the conference committee. The governor hasn't actually signed off yet, but so we know what our state aid numbers are through the conference committee. And on here, you can see the new growth came in at almost 875,000 versus the 630 that looking at previously. And the state aid right now, let me get down to that. I don't know how I get rid of the blue.
Click on the document.
The state aid actually, what's that? The state aid came in at 16,202. I missed it. It was slightly higher and our expenses were slightly lower. So we're with the local aid at 16,202,862. It's slightly higher than the 16,198. 452 that we had planned on before.
So this is a little bit than where we were.
Right now, go ahead.
So the state aid was up,
right?
Than what we projected.
So, yeah, not a big deal. That's why our state aid doesn't change that much. As they always say, they consider Norton a town. Get the major increases in Chapter 70 that some of the surrounding cities do. But the numbers came in, this is after town meeting. This you'll see where we made some of the changes.
Where are we looking, Mike?
So if you look to the right, so the estimate for the motor vehicle excise, we originally had it at 2,600,000. We've dropped that to 2,400,000. And then if you look at the other excise, those three items, right now that adds up to around 251,000, and we had that at 325 previously. And the penalties and interest we have now estimated at 250 instead of 290. And those are the major, also other charges for services dropped 20,000 to 55 from 75. So that 4,087,693 right here, that's the figure that on the previous sheet we have for our local receipts.
So we really think that there's going to be a 600,000 versus last year, a $600,000 drop in excise to motor vehicle excise tax. I mean, you think it's going to be $200,000 less than last year? That's what it's trending.
Okay. Yes. We had hoped by now that people would be out buying new cars, but things are going a lot longer than we had hoped.
Yeah.
So at what point do we start seriously ringing alarm bells? Do we have to wait until the excise tax bills get collected in February?
Yes, that's one of the major items on there. We'll have to see how that comes in February, and hopefully by next year people are out buying new cars again.
And do you think there's any room to make up? I know you said that you expect Condyne. A lot of that number of growth was from Condyne last year. Do you expect that really to hit this fiscal year or not really?
I think it will.
You do?
Yeah. And as we know from our meet, and that's for the building across the street on Leonard Street.
Yeah.
And also, if exit 10 is going to be in there by August, there'll be another building there that should be coming forward.
Yeah. And
What's ballpark for those permits, Mike?
I'm not sure. I would say ballpark across the street. You got to be looking at between 350 and 400, and out front, I'd say you got to be looking maybe around 150,000. So I know James, just before I left, he had the numbers for November. I'll get those to you tomorrow, and we'll keep you up to speed on how the revenue's coming in.
so are you, if you, right now, you're on a scale of 1 to 5 of concern, you're a 5 being the high, you're a 3, you're middle there, or are you?
I'd say 3.5.
Are we able to make any educated guesses when, don't the excise tax bills go out in January based on projected issuances and not necessarily returns? My concern is if we wait until end of February, that's a very short window of time to try to make any changes to get us back on track. Whatever we can do to advance that by even a few weeks is going to be helpful.
Yeah, I can check and see what their commitment is.
They usually go out in February.
Oh, is it February? Okay.
Yes, maybe I'll talk to the treasurer tomorrow to find out if she will be able to get numbers late January as to what the commitments will be. And then the other number that we need to be looking at would be building permits, because that could be another area where we could be hurting.
Okay. Yeah, if we're able to get a projection on excise tax in January, that would be huge.
And any other potential revenue generating funds coming through? Anything that like we can get some support behind from an EDC perspective, or?
We've been working with the state trying to get a pharmaceutical company, but right now I think they're out shopping between the Carolinas and Massachusetts and see where they get the best deal, but hopefully something like that would come in.
But in terms of this fiscal year, there's not a lot of magic bullets hanging out there that can come through.
No. James, got any magic bullets, James?
The only hope would be that once Congress gets established and the president gets established next year, they vote a stimulus package to send extra aid to the towns to be used as a replacement for revenue lost due to the pandemic. But that's a long shot.
I would agree with that.
Mike, I was going to ask, the fiscal year is the end of June, right?
Yes.
So other than this, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
That's awful.
What appropriate for this, yeah. I don't know what's more depressing, COVID or the budget.
Crazy times.
Do we have something within this agenda that we can pull up that's happy?
The end. Which I think if we're good on budget, we can move on to report and mail. I don't want to cut any budget things off. I know we're probably all a little bit nervous with what we're seeing. Nervous, but not surprised. Going once, twice.
Wait. 3 times a lady.
What?
Late, man.
No one tell Renee this is being recorded.
Oh, if it's recorded, I'm getting my mic out and I'm going to put the spotlight on me.
Yeah, Renee misses her karaoke.
Oh my God, yes. Hey, Mike, can I just ask, this is not quite related to budget, but it's related to the employees. Given the rise in the COVID cases, have you dialed back the folks working in the office? And are we looking more at a remote situation like we did when the outbreak first started?
Last week I asked the department heads to work on planning work that people could do from home just to get ready for it. And so that we are looking at that.
Okay, I know I was at town hall the other day, and I know that we're still closed to the public. Do we have a lot of visitors coming, like by appointment or anything that you're concerned with?
We don't have a lot of visitors coming, no.
Okay.
And then the concern in the town hall is the small offices, like say Board of Health with 4 people. You really don't want to have. God knows we don't want to lose
Right.
health department all at once. We have to, we don't want to have more than 2 people in there at a time. And so that's what we're working on right now. There isn't a lot of activity. And if people, everyone been calling and doing things online or making appointments, and we'll go outside and meet them as much as we can outside rather than have them come in. And so, if we are working from home and people make appointments, we can still go and meet them. And outside if we have to.
Okay. Have you leveraged I know that, or I thought Lucia had talked about using the selectmen's meeting room during the elections. Is that available? Like, can you leverage that to move some people in to create some social distancing?
We have to get Lucia to move a lot of her stuff up there.
Those are the minion voting machines I saw the other day.
Yeah, they are, actually.
I'm not asking that. She's had a crazy year.
And I know, Lucia, there's two of them in that office. It's kind of a small office. So, especially like with dog licenses coming up now, Brooke can do a lot of that at home. So those are the things we're working on.
Good, good. Thank you.
Yep.
Who's gonna have the number one dog in town? Who gets number one?
I know who's getting number one cat. Michael Toole.
This guy.
Do you have to get a license for a cat? Well, that seems kind of canine bias. Hey, did I just have an idea for additional revenue?
Back away from my cat.
All right, we're gonna steer this leaky craft back on its course and bring it for a landing here. Select board report and mail. Anyone have anything they would like to share this evening?
I'm fine at 10:13 to move anything to next week.
Seeing nothing, we'll go to warrants and minutes. So lately I have approved payroll warrants. PR 21-12 for the week ended November 28, 2020. Warrant dated December 3, 2020 in the amount of $1,899,658.02. Invoice warrant AP 21-22 dated November 25, 2020 in the amount of $1,048,739.63. Invoice warrant AP 21-23 dated December 3, 2020 in the amount of $1,191,653.91. And invoice warrant AP 21-24 dated December 10th, 2020 and the amount of $846,757.22.
Was payroll hijack? Is that normal?
It does seem a bit higher, but I can't find anything to compare it to, so I can look into that.
Mike, do you recall anything on that time period? Anything special standing out at you? That seems a little higher than usual. I have to go back. Never mind. Don't worry about it. I'll do my own comparison. I'll bring it up next meeting if there's a problem.
Well, you have James on. I mean, we have the people that probably know better than any of our minutes.
The payroll included retro payments for some of the salaries that were negotiated. I'm not sure if you're approving the payroll from the week of Thanksgiving, or you're approving the payroll of December 3rd.
December 3rd is what the...
December 3rd has the stipends for most of the public safety officials.
Okay.
No, it's the week ending November 28th, Michael. The warrant was just dated on December 3rd.
Week ended 28th.
Yeah, payday December 3rd. That includes the public safety stipends.
So James, when you say the retro, that's for all the contracts that should have been renewed that were late, and so it went back all the way to July or June?
Exactly. The ones that were approved at the October town meeting, those were paid around that time. I believe it was the week of Thanksgiving that we have paid all of their retros for the clerical union, CINA A, CINA B, fire, and that's about it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for saving us to have to go back and
Anytime.
look at it.
All right. Minutes. I have not had a chance to review any minutes. I would suggest we hold that till next week.
Agreed.
Okay. We've talked about our next meeting. There's no executive session. Is there any other business to come before the board?
Jack, I'm sorry if I could just ask Jen. Jen, do we have many more licenses to sign that are waiting for us?
There are 7 licensees that have not submitted their renewal applications yet.
We've signed all the others?
There might be a handful that came in like the past day or two, maybe
Okay.
I think 4 or 5, but most of them have been signed by the board.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, going once, twice, 3 times a meeting. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
You have to put that to tune, Jack, especially living with your wife. Come on.
So moved.
One,
We'll have a second.
3 times a meeting.
There you go, Peter. And there's the second.
All right. Meg,
Yes.
Michael,
Aye.
Renee,
Yes.
I too say yes. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate participation and discussion. Be safe out there.
Good night.